Vanished sky maps. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt like something was missing? Like you were staring at a puzzle that had once been whole, but now a few important pieces were gone. Maybe you've noticed it too. How different the stars seem depending on where you are, or how even a familiar sky can feel off. What if I told you that some ancient people may have seen stars we don't see anymore? And not just imagined them, but actually mapped them, carefully, deliberately, with the kind of detail that makes you wonder if the stars truly changed, or if we simply forgot. Let me know in the comments where you live and what your night sky looks like. Do you still see the same stars every year? Or has something ever felt strange about them? We all experience the sky in personal ways. Some people look up and feel peace, others feel small. But what if someone once looked up and saw something entirely different? That's the mystery behind the so-called vanished sky maps, strange, ancient diagrams found in caves, stones, and even carvings where the positions of the stars don't match our sky today. Not slightly off like a beginner trying to draw the Big Dipper, but truly different, like constellations that don't even exist anymore. Imagine opening a school textbook from 500 years ago and seeing a map of a country that's nowhere to be found today. You'd be confused. You'd wonder if it was a mistake or if something real was erased. That's how these maps feel. Some show groupings of stars that aren't visible from Earth now. Some are labeled in patterns that suggest those stars used to be there, but faded, or were moved, or hidden. It's easy to assume our ancestors didn't know much about space, but they were far more patient than we are. They didn't have screens or distractions. They had time and darkness. They watched the sky every night for years. They noticed the smallest shifts. They tracked how stars rose and sank over generations. So when we find a sky map carved into rock, we can't just ignore it, especially when it doesn't match ours. One of the strangest discoveries was in a mountain cave where the ceiling was covered in dots and lines. At first, it looked like art, but when scientists mapped those dots onto star charts, some matched real stars, ones we know today. Others didn't match anything at all. They weren't random. They were placed with care, but they don't exist anymore. It's as if a whole piece of the universe vanished. This brings up a strange thought. Can stars die without us noticing? Yes. Some stars are so far away that their light takes millions of years to reach us. A star you see tonight might have already exploded. You're just seeing its ghost. But what if it's the other way around? What if we used to see something that's now completely gone? Or hidden behind dust, space clouds, or black holes? Or what if those ancient people saw stars we can't see anymore, not because the stars changed, but because we did? Maybe something about our minds, or our tools, or even our language limits how we see. Like when you stare at a word for too long and it starts to look wrong. What if modern science made us blind to something older cultures could still feel? It's kind of like how children often notice patterns adults miss. Not because they're smarter, but because they're not distracted by logic yet. They're still open. What if ancient people were like that with the sky? What if their brains were tuned to frequencies or rhythms that we no longer sense? There's another idea too, one that's more unsettling. What if someone, or something, erased those stars from history? Not just from the sky, but from our memory? Maybe those vanished sky maps aren't mistakes. Maybe they're clues. Maybe they're warning signs left behind by people who knew we'd forget. It makes you think about how fragile memory is. Even now, with all our technology, we lose things. Old files get deleted. Family stories fade. We forget names, faces, feelings. So it's not impossible to imagine that humanity, as a whole, forgot a part of the sky. And the maps are the only things that still remember. There's something comforting in that. That stone remembers, that even if our minds let go, something in the earth is still holding on. A dot, a line, a carving someone made with cold hands and a sharp rock, staring up at a sky they knew like a friend. And maybe that's the real mystery. Not just what stars they saw, but why they felt it was so important to record them. What were they trying to tell us? That the sky changes? That nothing lasts? Or that some things, no matter how vast, can still disappear? Tonight, when you go outside, take a few seconds to look up. Not just glance, but really look. Try to imagine what someone 5,000 years ago might have seen. Try to imagine the stars not as science, but as memory, as feelings, as secrets. And if you feel like something's missing, maybe you're not imagining it. Before we move to the next ancient secret, I'd love for you to be part of this journey. If this made you feel curious or even just calm, consider subscribing, liking, or sharing it with someone who looks up at the sky too. There's so much more to uncover, and we're just getting started. Soundless languages. Have you ever had a moment with someone where no words were spoken, yet you both knew exactly what the other person was thinking? Maybe it was just a look or a small movement, but somehow it carried meaning. You didn't say anything, but it felt like you understood each other perfectly. What if I told you that some ancient civilizations may have built entire systems of communication around this kind of silence? Strange symbols, found in forgotten places, hint at a language with no sound at all. No voices. No writing as we know it. Just quiet meaning, passed from one mind to another. Let me know if you've ever experienced a moment like that, when no one spoke, but everything was understood. Maybe it happened during an argument, a hug, or even just sitting beside someone on a hard day. That kind of silence speaks louder than noise. Now imagine a whole culture built on that feeling. All across the world, archaeologists have discovered symbols that don't fit into any known language. They're not letters. They're not numbers. Some are spirals. Others are waves. Some look like they belong in a dream more than on stone. What's strange is how these marks appear over and over again across vast distances, sometimes carved into temples, other times hidden in caves. And yet, we have no idea how to read them. No dictionaries, no clear rules, just patterns, repeating in silence. The more you look at them, the more it starts to feel like maybe they weren't meant to be read with eyes or heard with ears. Maybe they were meant to be felt. It's like music with no sound. You know something is being shared, but you can't explain how. Just like how you can feel tension in a room before anyone speaks, or how some people just seem to get you without needing anything said at all. This idea of a soundless language might sound impossible, but in some ways we already use it every day. When someone smiles at you, they're saying something. When someone avoids eye contact, that's a message too. Even silence during a conversation often says more than words ever could. But what if ancient people took that to another level? Some researchers believe that these mysterious symbols weren't just decoration. They were tools, like keys for unlocking shared thought. Not magic, not fantasy, just a different way of using the mind. In one ancient village, walls were covered in the same shape repeated dozens of times. The people who lived there didn't leave behind any spoken words or traditional writings. No long texts, no names, just symbols, carefully drawn, almost like they didn't need words, like everyone already knew what those symbols meant, without having to explain. Think about how often we miscommunicate today. We send texts, but the tone is wrong. We talk, but someone mishears. We argue over words, because they don't always carry what we feel. What if there was a way to speak where that didn't happen? A quiet, direct path from thought to thought, without sound in between? Some believe these ancient people used deep forms of body awareness, eye focus, or mental clarity to speak without speaking. They might have trained their minds in ways we've lost. Today we struggle to focus for more than a few minutes, but they had time, patience, practice. Perhaps their entire lives were built around that shared silence. There are ancient stories, passed down in whispers, of people who could hear one another without mouths moving, not in a loud or scary way, but in calm, quiet understanding, as if thought itself had weight, as if intention could move between people without a single word. And maybe that's not so far off. Think about when you walk into a room and feel someone's mood before they say anything. It's not just body language. It's something deeper, something we don't have words for. It happens in moments of love, grief, or danger. You just know. Maybe ancient people simply paid more attention to that feeling and built a whole language around it. It raises big questions. What if the way we speak today, fast, noisy, full of words, isn't the best way? What if there's an older, softer way to share what really matters? Some scientists are exploring how the brain lights up when we think the same thoughts as someone else. It turns out our minds naturally sync in conversation. Even in silence, if two people focus together, something strange happens. Their brain waves begin to match. Not perfectly, but enough to suggest a kind of shared rhythm, a quiet harmony. So, now, when we look back at those ancient symbols, they start to look less like art and more like instructions, reminders, traces of a time when silence was the most powerful sound, when understanding didn't need translation, and maybe that's why those languages didn't survive. Because as we got louder, faster, and busier, we stopped listening to the quiet. We lost the space between words, but there's still hope. Because sometimes, in a moment of stillness, it returns. That deep connection, that shared pause, that simple, soundless knowing. Before we go deeper into the next secret, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever felt truly understood without speaking? Maybe it happened with a loved one, a stranger, or even a pet. Share it in the comments, and help bring some of that ancient silence back into our modern noise. If you're enjoying this quiet journey into forgotten truths, feel free to like, subscribe, or just breathe deeply and stay a while. There's more to uncover. And sometimes, the most powerful stories are told in silence. Zero before time. Have you ever stared at a blank screen, waiting for something to come to you, but nothing does? That feeling of emptiness isn't just absence. It's something you feel. Now imagine trying to describe that nothingness without even having a word for it. Before numbers, before time as we measure it, some ancient people tried to understand the deepest mystery of all, the idea of zero. But what if I told you that not every civilization agreed it even existed? Let me ask you something simple. Where are you watching this from? A small town? A big city? Somewhere in between? Wherever you are, think about this. How often do you pause and notice nothing? No noise, no distractions, just silence, stillness. Zero. We think of zero today as just another number. It sits between -1 and +1 on a number line, but that's not how it started. In fact, for a very long time, zero wasn't a number at all. It was something else, something uncomfortable, something almost spiritual. Before math had symbols, people measured life in moments, seasons, and cycles. They counted animals, they tracked stars, but they didn't count nothing. How could they? You can't see it. You can't touch it. Nothing is invisible. And yet, in some ancient cultures, zero was already there, hiding in the gaps. The Mayans, for example, had a symbol for zero as early as the 4th century. It looked like a shell, empty, but holding space. To them, zero wasn't just the absence of something. It was the breath between movements, the space between drumbeats, the stillness before a storm. It had meaning, but in other places, zero was feared. Some early Greek thinkers didn't trust the idea of nothingness. They thought the universe was full, solid, and continuous. In their eyes, nothing didn't make sense. It was too strange, too unnatural. And maybe that fear makes sense. Because zero isn't just a number, it's a mirror. When you look into it, you don't see things, you see their absence. Zero asks uncomfortable questions. What if there's nothing left? What if all the effort means nothing? We still feel that today, don't we? After a long day, if you feel like you've done nothing, it stings. In relationships, we fear being left with nothing. In exams, we dread the idea of scoring zero. Even though zero is just a number, it often feels personal, emotional. But here's where it gets really interesting. Some ancient thinkers didn't see zero as failure. They saw it as possibility. In Indian philosophy, the concept of shunya, which means emptiness, wasn't bad. It was sacred. From emptiness comes creation. Before something new can begin, there must be space for it. In their math, zero didn't end things. It made things possible. Without zero, you can't count properly. You can't measure time. You can't build systems. Zero is the place everything begins. And still, not every civilization used it. In ancient Rome, for example, they had no symbol for zero. Their number system didn't need it. But that meant they couldn't do certain calculations. Their math had limits. And maybe that's the point. Some cultures were comfortable with limits. Others reached beyond. So what does that say about us? Maybe it means that how we see nothing tells us how we see ourselves. If we fear stillness, we rush. If we fear silence, we fill it. But sometimes it's in the quiet moments that we grow the most. Think about when you're about to start something new, a blank page, a fresh calendar, an empty room. That's zero. It's not failure. It's not the end. It's the beginning. And maybe the ancients knew that better than we do. Imagine someone thousands of years ago staring at the stars. They see patterns, movement, and space. The dark sky is full of light and full of empty. But that empty isn't meaningless. It holds everything. Possibility, wonder, questions, the kind of quiet that invites us to listen. Some scientists today think our brains are hardwired to fear the void, that we naturally seek patterns, even when none exist. But what if some ancient minds did the opposite? What if they learned to rest in the nothing, to be still inside it? It changes the way we think about knowledge. It changes how we measure success. Maybe doing nothing for a little while isn't wasting time. Maybe it's making space. So next time you feel like you're behind, like you haven't done enough, like there's just an empty space where progress should be, remember zero. Remember that it isn't absence. It's not the end of the line. It's the place where something beautiful might begin. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt stuck in that zero space? Or maybe you've learned to embrace it. Share where you're watching from, and if you're comfortable, tell me about a time when nothing turned into something for you. If you're finding meaning in these quiet mysteries, feel free to like, subscribe, or just stay for a while longer. There are many more secrets to explore, some hidden in history, some hidden in silence. Let's keep going. Together, stone healers. Have you ever stepped into a place and, without knowing why, felt different, calmer, lighter, as if the space itself was holding something unseen? Not air, not light, but something deeper. What if I told you that, long before modern medicine, some ancient places may have been built not for shelter, not for worship, but for healing? And what's more, no tools were ever found. Where are you right now as you listen? Lying in bed? Sitting by a window? Maybe in a quiet corner of your home? Take a second to notice the stillness around you, because the ancient world was filled with stillness too. But some of it wasn't empty. It was designed, made to change the way you feel, simply by being inside it. Across Europe and other parts of the world, strange stone circles rise from the ground. Most people have heard of Stonehenge, but there are many more. Hundreds, in fact. Some large, some small, some hidden. But what ties many of them together is not what's there, But what's missing? No graves, no weapons, no writing, no surgical tools. And yet, when people stand in the center, they often report the same thing, an odd sensation, like their heartbeat slows, like their mind clears, as if something invisible is washing over them. Archaeologists, over time, began to notice patterns. Some of these circles are placed exactly where underground water flows. Others line up with sunrises or moonrises. But a few seem to focus not on the sky, but on the body. Their layout, their echo, even the way sound bounces inside them, feels intentional, like someone thousands of years ago knew something about how space affects us. Not emotionally, but physically. Now, think about your daily life. Have you ever been inside a room that felt comforting, even if it was empty? Or maybe stood near the ocean and felt your stress melt away? That's not magic. It's how your body responds to the world around it. Sound, temperature, shape, even silence. So what if these ancient stone circles weren't just random gatherings of rock, but early hospitals? Places where people went, not to speak, but to feel better. The problem is, no written instructions were left behind, no signs, no records, just stone. Silent, heavy, waiting. But when modern scientists tested some of these places, they found something strange. A few of the stone circles could amplify sound, especially certain tones. And not just any tones, but frequencies that match the natural rhythm of the human body. That's when a new idea started to grow. Maybe these places were used for sound healing. Maybe ancient people didn't need pills or machines. Maybe they understood that the body could respond to vibration, to harmony, to the natural hum of the earth. And here's where the mystery deepens. If they did know that, how? Some believe the knowledge came from observation, from watching how animals rest on certain stones, or how some caves seem to calm the mind. Others think it came from dreams, from quiet listening, from a kind of understanding. We've forgotten. Whatever the truth, one thing stands out. These spaces weren't built by accident. Their stones were heavy, their arrangement was exact, and their effect lingers even now. There's something haunting about that, isn't there? That maybe the cure wasn't something people swallowed or cut away, but something they stood in, something they felt. It makes us question our own way of thinking. Today, we rush, we chase quick answers. But what if healing, real healing, takes stillness? What if it comes not from fixing the body, but from listening to it? Have you ever had a moment where you just needed space? Not conversation, not advice, just a quiet place to be. That's what these stone circles might have offered, a break from the noise, a moment of peace. And maybe deep down, we're still looking for that. Because healing isn't always physical. Sometimes it's about rest, about permission to pause. And the ancient world may have known how to build for that. So next time you pass a quiet spot in nature, or even find yourself alone in your room, don't rush to fill it. Sit with it. Feel it. Because healing might not always look like action. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Like stone. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever visited a place that made you feel instantly calm, even without knowing why? Maybe a garden, a temple, or even just a park bench under a tree. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you've ever felt a place heal you, and if you've enjoyed this journey through quiet mysteries, feel free to like, subscribe, or simply stay a while longer. There's still so much hidden wisdom to uncover, some of it ancient, some of it already inside you. Let's keep exploring together. Eyes and wall. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like invisible eyes were watching you? Maybe it was a painting or a chill breeze making you pause and look around. Imagine stepping into an ancient temple carved from stone where countless faces stare back at you from the walls. No matter where you stand, they always seem to follow. It's not just a trick of the light. It's something deeper, something that feels almost alive. Where are you right now as you hear this? Sitting in your living room, or maybe a quiet corner of a library. Take a moment to notice how your body reacts to someone watching. A slight tension in your shoulders. A quick look over your shoulder. Share in the comments if you've ever felt that way, maybe in an empty house or passing a mirror late at night. Throughout the world, in remote mountain valleys and desert plains, there are temples and caves carved by hands long gone. In many of these places, the artists sculpted eyes, dozens, sometimes hundreds of them, on columns and walls, all turned toward the center of the room. Move one step to the left, one step to the right. The eyes follow you. It's the same feeling you get when a friend picks your name out of a crowd, or when a stranger's gaze makes you stop in your tracks. But here there's no friend, no stranger, just stone and silence. Imagine standing there, your heart beating a bit faster, as those carved eyes seem to hold secrets they're not ready to share. Why would someone create that feeling on purpose? In our daily life, we know the power of a gaze. A teacher's eyes can calm us or strike fear. A parent's eyes can show love or worry. In exams, we feel the teacher watching as we write answers. In relationships, a glance can tell us more than words. But these ancient stones take it further. They blur the line between watching and being watched. They ask a question: who's really in control? Are you watching the eyes, or are the eyes watching you? Some believe these eyes were meant to remind visitors that the gods or ancestors were always present, that no thought, no word, no secret could hide from their gaze. Think about the times in your life when you felt judged, even when no one spoke. Maybe you made a mistake at work and felt as if everyone knew, even before they said anything. That same feeling resonates in these silent carvings. And yet there's also comfort in being seen, knowing that someone cares, even in the stillness of stone. There's a simple example in nature. Imagine a deer at the edge of a clearing. Its ears perk up at every sound. Its eyes scan for predators, feeling, watched by the forest itself. We recognize that tension. But what if the forest was carved to watch the deer back? That's what these ancient walls do to us. They create a shared experience of visibility. They teach us that watching is a two-way path. It's not just about guarding, it's about connection. It's like when we make eye contact with a friend across a room. In that moment, both of us feel seen. This idea touches bigger themes. Think about belief. Many ancient cultures believed that eyes were the windows to the soul. If the soul is the essence of who we are, then carving eyes into walls might have been a way to hold spirits in place. They weren't just art. They were anchors. In some stories, people believed the spirits of the dead watched over the living. The carvings ensured that the ancestors never drifted away. Now consider language. In our world, we say, "I see you," as a form of understanding. But these stones take it literally. They see you. They hear your footsteps. They feel your breath. That's a language beyond words, one that speaks directly to our sense of self. When it comes to mental health, think about how being watched affects us. Sometimes, knowing someone cares can be comforting, but constant surveillance can also create tension, anxiety, and a fear of mistakes. In the ancient world, maybe people needed that balance to act kindly, speak honestly, and remember their history. But what happens when we never have privacy? Modern life is full of cameras. Phones record our faces. Data tracks our steps. We feel watched, even when we don't want to be. The eyes in the walls remind us that this tension between being seen and being free is as old as civilization itself. Now, let's bring in a hint of the future: artificial intelligence. Today, AI can recognize faces, predict our choices, and even analyze our emotions. It can fill a room with invisible eyes, smart devices listening, cameras scanning, algorithms deciding. We step into spaces thinking we're alone, but AI might already know our habits, our secrets, our fears. The carved eyes were simple, stone, and light, but AI's gaze is everywhere. Algorithms, data points, digital patterns. It knows us better than we know ourselves. And yet, sometimes we forget it's there. We share our lives online as if no one watches, but someone, something, is always watching. As you think about this, consider your own life. Where do you feel watched? In traffic? At work? Online? And where do you long to be seen? Maybe it's in a conversation with a close friend. Maybe it's sharing your art or your thoughts with the world. The paradox is that we crave connection, but we fear exposure. We want meaning in being watched, and also freedom in being unseen. Before I take you deeper into the next ancient secret, let me ask you again, if you've ever felt watched by something invisible, share it below. If you haven't, tell us where you are right now and how the idea of being seen makes you feel. And if you find value in this journey, if these quiet mysteries bring a sense of calm or wonder, please like this video, subscribe for more, or share it with someone who values a moment of stillness. There's so much more ahead. Secrets carved in stone, hidden in silence, and waiting for you to notice them. Fake sun temples. Have you ever felt the warmth of the sun on your face and for a moment believed it was speaking directly to you? Imagine walking into a temple carved from stone, expecting the sunrise to flood the hall with golden light. But instead, you see nothing, only shadows. Then, hours later, when the sun has climbed higher, long after anyone would dream of watching it, you watch as a single beam slices through a carved notch and lands on the altar. Strange, right? This is the mystery of the so-called fake sun temples. They look like they were built to honor the sun, but their light shows happen at times that don't fit the usual rhythms of sunrise and sunset. It makes you wonder, did someone trick the world with these stones? Where are you right now as you listen to this? In a small town or a big city? Maybe you're near a window, watching leaves dance in the breeze. Notice how the light shifts as clouds pass. Share in the comments where you are, and if you've ever seen sunlight surprise you by peeking through a crack in a door or window. That simple moment of light can feel like a greeting from the sun itself. But what if someone waited for a moment like that and built an entire temple around it? Most of us know about temples that align perfectly with the solstice. You stand in a hallway, and the sun's rays march straight through on a winter morning, illuminating a statue placed at the far end. That feels natural. It feels honest. It feels like a celebration of the cycles we all experience. Cold winters, hot summers, and everything in between. But the fake sun temples are different. Their alignments happen at odd times, like the third day after the winter solstice, or the sixth day before the autumn equinox. They don't match our calendars. They don't match the seasons. Instead, they seem forced. Think about your own life for a second. Imagine you set your alarm for 7 a.m. every day because that's when the sun rises near your window in summer. But one day, someone tells you to wake up at 5:45 a.m. to see the sun rise over your roof. You groan, roll out of bed, and stumble over. When you get outside, you find the sun is still hiding behind distant trees. You feel tricked. You wonder why anyone would tell you to wake so early if it wasn't going to work. That sense of being fooled, of expectations clashing with reality, that is the heart of the fake sun temples. They promise a grand show at dawn, but deliver only at an odd hour when most people have already moved on. In some deserts and remote plateaus, explorers found ruins that look like ordinary sun temples at first glance. They have carved doorways, open courtyards, and stone altars positioned as though ready to welcome the rising sun. But when experts mapped the sun's path, something didn't add up. The main corridor faced not the east, but a direction you'd only see the sun from after it had moved well into the sky. In one small temple, the beam of light didn't light up the altar until nearly 2 hours after sunrise. In another, the sacred spot only glowed when the sun was already heading down. It was as if someone built these temples to show off a sun trick, a performance they could control. Not a natural celebration they simply watched. Why would anyone do that? To answer that, we need to think about belief. In many ancient societies, the sun was a powerful deity. It gave life. It took life away. It was worshipped, feared, and honored. If you could claim control over the sun, if you could make it shine, on your own terms, you could claim power over the people who watched you. Imagine being a leader in a dusty village, where people wake before dawn to pray. If you tell them to gather at a temple and promise they'll see the sun touch the altar at sunrise, you're promising divine favor. When they arrive and the morning, sun doesn't do what you said, then, when it finally lights the altar at an unexpected time, you could declare that only your gods know the true time of blessing. It's a game of control, a silent trick played on those who trust without question. Consider how in our own lives we sometimes promise things we can't deliver, like telling a friend you'll pick them up at 6 p.m. when you know you'll be stuck in traffic. You want them to trust you, even though you're making them wait. We do it because we believe in the power of our word. But when the delay is hours, not minutes, they feel betrayed. In the case of the fake sun temples, that betrayal was built into stone. The people who came expecting dawn's first light saw only darkness until the temple's masters decided the show would begin. Yet, there's also a strange beauty in these spaces, because when the sun finally does strike the altar, it casts a pure, unbroken line of light. Even now, if you visit such a temple, you can stand inside and feel that moment quietly flash across your face, cold stone warming under soft sunlight. It's a reminder that even in deception, there's artistry. The stones were carved with skill, the angles calculated with care. Someone studied the sun's arc and built this stage to reveal its light at a moment they chose. It requires respect, even as it raises suspicion. This idea brings us to language. Think about the phrases we use when we talk about light. She shed light on the subject. He was blinded by the truth. That fact came to light. We often link light to knowledge, to clarity, to honesty. But what about when light is used to hide the truth instead? When a device designed for worship is really a tool for manipulation, it flips our metaphors. Light becomes shadow. Clarity becomes confusion. Words meant to bring understanding instead seed doubt. And that is a lesson we face every day in our world of news headlines, tweets, and social media posts. Not every bright idea is honest. Sometimes a dazzling light is meant to distract. Moving deeper, let's consider mental health. Imagine living near one of these temples. People go each morning to watch the sunrise align with the altar. They believe it brings healing, blessings, or answers to their prayers. But day after day, they leave disappointed until the right moment. They're told to have faith, to be patient. And each time they trust without seeing results, they risk feeling worse than when they started. It's like expecting comfort from someone who keeps postponing it. A gentle reminder that blind faith can lead to disappointment. On the other hand, it also speaks to our hope. Even in the face of uncertainty, we gather, believing something good will come. That's a powerful drive, and a fragile one too. We need to know when our hope is built on solid ground and when it's built on shifting sands. Now, glance ahead to our digital age, where artificial intelligence studies the sun's patterns, our weather, and our calendars to predict everything from flood risks to crop yields. But AI also learns from human behavior, our beliefs, our hopes, our willingness to trust. Could someone program an AI to build digital sun temples, websites or apps that promise insight at specific times, but only deliver when it's convenient? For the platform. In a way, we already see this. Think about notifications that pounce on you when you least expect it. A social app that sends a breaking news alert at 3 a.m., knowing you'll click. Or an online store that flashes a limited time offer when most people are asleep, so only a few will see it. It's a modern echo of those ancient sun tricks, controlling the moment to control the mind. As you think about this, remember, that light, whether from the sun or a screen, can guide us, comfort us, and teach us. But it can also mislead us. We must watch for the moments when we're led to believe something obvious, that the sun will shine on the altar at dawn, only to discover it's at a strange hidden hour. And then we must ask, who set this timing? What do they gain? And how do we find our own truth? Before we explore the next secret, I'd love to hear your experience. Have you ever waited in the cold or the dark, expecting a sunrise glow, only To feel let down? Or maybe you felt that rush of wonder when unexpected light finally appears. Tell us where you're watching from and how that moment felt. And if this journey has lit a spark of curiosity in your mind, consider liking this video, subscribing, or sharing it with someone who loves these quiet mysteries. There are more ancient secrets waiting to reveal themselves, and sometimes the truth shines best when we least expect it. Liquid mirrors. Have you ever stared into a mirror late at night and wondered who really looks back at you? That familiar moment when your reflection seems to hold more questions than answers. Where are you right now as you hear this? Maybe you're in a quiet room with only the hum of a fan nearby, or perhaps you're tucked into bed just before sleep. Share in the comments if you've ever felt your reflection whisper something you couldn't quite understand. Now imagine an ancient world without glass mirrors, no modern polish or frame. Yet hidden underground lie pools of polished metal so smooth they reflect like liquid silver. Archaeologists have uncovered these shallow basins, sometimes in caves or secret chambers, and they're too thin and fragile for any kind of defense. So what were they for? Think of how you might use your phone's screen to check your face before a video call, or how a still pond shows your image on a calm afternoon. The ancients didn't have screens or cameras. They had stone, metal, and deep curiosity. When they hammered sheets of copper or bronze until they shone like mercury, they created what we now call liquid mirrors. In some caves, the floor is flat and low, with a metal basin at its center. When water pooled inside, it created a perfect, rippling reflection, like looking at another world. No swords, no shields, no coins, just polished metal that glistened in candlelight. If these were not used for defense, not for storage, then why invest so much effort in making them? Imagine sitting beside a calm lake at dawn, watching fog lift. You see your face, pale, curious, before the day's work begins. That moment of quiet self-examination can be powerful. You might notice a worry line on your forehead, a tired glance in your eyes. In exams, we often catch our reflection on a window, the tension of waiting for results mirrored in our own face. In relationships, if someone you love looks at you in a calm, mirror-lit room, you feel seen. And sometimes, small fears fade. Those simple reflections help us understand ourselves. Now think about ancient people, perhaps standing before those polished metal pools lit by oil lamps. They might have seen not only their faces, but symbols engraved around the basin's edge, spirals, stars, or animals, faint carvings that only appear when the metal shines. Some researchers believe these liquid mirrors were not just for grooming or decoration. They were tools for visions. In many cultures, people have believed that mirrors reveal truth beyond the surface. In medieval Europe, witches were said to stare into polished shields or bowls of water to glimpse the future. In ancient Egypt, priests used obsidian mirrors to commune with spirits. But these underground metal pools go deeper, literally and metaphorically. Buried far below the sun's light, in caves where silence reigns, they suggest a private, sacred space where only chosen people came to seek answers. Maybe they believed that by looking into this strange reflection, they could see images not of this world, images of ancestors, gods, or even warnings of events to come. Think about a time when you scrolled through photos late at night and stumbled on an old picture of yourself. A wave of feeling can hit you. Surprise, nostalgia, or even unease. Mirrors, screens, photos. They all show us ourselves, but each invites us to look deeper. What if the liquid mirrors weren't just showing faces, but revealing hidden parts of the mind? In modern therapy, people sometimes use guided visualizations to bring unconscious thoughts to the surface. Ancient people may have developed their own method. Stand in the dim light, stare at your reflection, let your mind wander. The polished metal pool becomes a gateway, water and metal amplifying shadows, shaping images that aren't fully there yet. It's less about seeing clearly and more about feeling deeply. This practice touches bigger themes. In belief, it raises the question, does truth lie in what we see or in what we feel when we see it? Language sometimes fails us here. There's no single word for the ghost we see in a dim mirror, that half-memory of a dream. In mental health, mirrors can be a source of comfort, but also fear. Some people struggle with body image, staring too long, feeling lost in their own reflection. Others use mirrors to practice mindfulness. Notice each breath, each flicker of emotion until the face staring back feels like an old friend. These ancient liquid mirrors may have offered a similar sanctuary or a challenge to face oneself without judgment. Now consider artificial intelligence. Today, AI can analyze faces to detect emotions, predict moods, even generate virtual reflections. Your phone might suggest filters to improve your look. But can a machine capture that raw moment when you first see your own eyes in the darkness? Those polished metal pools remind us that reflection isn't just data. It's a human act of presence. When you stand before a liquid mirror, the metal doesn't judge. It simply holds the image, shifting slightly as you move. It brings you face to face with yourself, and maybe with something beyond yourself. Before we explore the next ancient secret, I'm curious. Have you ever tried staring into a reflective surface to clear your mind, maybe in a still lake or a window at night? How did it feel to see yourself, but also something unfamiliar? Share your experience in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. If this calm journey into old mysteries brings you peace, consider liking this video or subscribing for more. There's a silent world waiting to be discovered. Reflections hidden beneath stone, waiting to show us what's inside. Let's keep looking, together. Memory stones. Have you ever forgotten something important and felt a chill run down your spine? Maybe it was a promise you made to a friend or a deadline for an exam, and suddenly the world seemed to tilt out of balance. Now imagine a time when people didn't have paper or screens to record their thoughts. They had to rely on something more lasting, a stone. Deep in hidden valleys and ancient sites, archaeologists have found rocks covered in strange, repetitive markings. At first glance, they seem random, but when studied closely, those carvings follow patterns. They look like instructions or stories waiting to be read. Where are you watching from right now? Maybe a cozy room or a quiet park bench? Share in the comments if you've ever used a journal, a sticky note, or even your phone to store an idea, because what these ancient people did was similar but far more mysterious. Picture yourself flipping through a textbook before an important test. You see highlighted lines, bullet points, and diagrams that help you remember facts. You trust these notes because they fit into your modern world. But what if you stepped back thousands of years and saw a flat stone covered in curved lines and dots? Those lines could be a guide, a way to remember planting seasons or medicinal recipes. Think of how you might tap your phone screen to find a recipe or set an alarm to wake you up. The ancients tapped their minds, then carved into rock to make memory real. Those stones were their hard drives, their flash drives, their recorders of truth. Imagine walking into a village and finding a circle of stones standing tall. You run your fingers along a series of marks and realize they repeat in a pattern every 8 lines. A storyteller might chant a tale and the villagers would use the marks to follow along, filling in details from memory. In our lives, we rely on photos, videos, and voice recordings to relive moments, but this ancient practice was simpler and still brilliant. It was as if they whispered to each other, "We will not forget." They etched their knowledge directly into the earth. These memory stones often appear in lonely places, caves, mountain ledges, riverbanks. It was not just about carving a message. It was about choosing a place that held meaning for everyone. Think about your own sense of place. A childhood home, a favorite park, a quiet beach. Those spots carry memories, birthdays, reunions, quiet mornings. In a similar way, these ancients picked sacred sites. You walk into the cool darkness of a cave. The air is damp and still. Your footsteps echo. Then you see the stones ahead, lined up like old friends waiting to speak. Stand close and you feel history pressing in. The carvings are not just lines. They are echoes of lives, of knowledge passed down, of lessons meant to last. In everyday life, we experience memory in many forms. A certain smell can take you back to your grandmother's kitchen. A song can revive feelings from long ago. In relationships, shared experiences create bonds, inside jokes, familiar glances, a word that means more than its letters. Those moments stick because they are repeated, felt, and stored in our minds. The memory stones worked the same way. By carving symbols, people forced their memories to stand outside themselves. They turned fragile, fleeting thoughts into something solid. But there is a deeper question. Why rely on stones when memory lives within us? In our digital age, we worry about losing memories when devices crash. We back up files in the cloud. Yet sometimes we forget where we saved a photo or a document. We panic. The ancients did not have that panic. If we think of our brains as gardens where memories grow, the memory stones were like irrigation canals. They carried water, knowledge, to the roots, making sure nothing dried up. In belief and in practice, those stones represented a collective mind. They were group memory, not just one person's idea. A whole community could read the carvings and add their own understanding, like layers of paint, building a mural over time. Now think about language. Words are our tools to shape the world, but words can slip away in translation or fade when no one speaks them. Some ancient languages vanished because no one carved them into stone. Others survived because people thought them worthy of lasting. Memory stones are a reminder that writing something down gives it life. It becomes more than a fleeting idea. It becomes part of the landscape. In mental health, writing has power. Journaling can help us process emotions. Drawing helps us explore our thoughts. Those practices can feel simple, but they carry weight. The memory stones show us that from deep in the past, humans understood the healing and sustaining power of recording life. Consider how this touches our modern world of artificial intelligence. Today, AI systems store vast amounts of data. Books, images, videos, music. They remember everything we feed them. But can an AI truly understand the meaning behind that data? The memory stones are not just data points. They are experiences carved into rock. They hold emotion, ritual, and context. An AI can catalog a set of carvings, but can it feel the same awe you feel standing before them? Can it grasp why a pattern of dots meant safety or a certain season? That is the power of human memory, its ability to connect symbols with emotions, stories, and identities. The stones were not just repositories, they were living reminders that knowledge is more than information. It's a bond between the past and the present, between one person and the whole tribe. Imagine you find a memory stone in a hidden cave, undisturbed for centuries. The carvings are weather-worn, but still visible. You might feel a sudden peace, as if those who carved it walked beside you. In our lives, we find peace in photographs of loved ones, in letters from old friends, in songs that remind us of better days. The stones did the same for their people. They offered comfort, guidance, and identity. They told future generations, "You are not alone. We were here. We learned. You can learn too." Before we move on to the next ancient secret, I invite you to share your own memory practices. Do you keep a journal, a photo album, a playlist of songs you turn to when you need comfort? Let us know where you're watching from and how you preserve your own stories. If this reflection on memory stones brings you calm or inspires you, please like this video, subscribe, or share it with someone who values the power of remembering. There are more hidden wonders waiting to be revealed. Stones that store lessons, places that heal in silence, and symbols that speak without words. Let's keep listening to these echoes together. Breathless tombs. Imagine stepping into a silent chamber where the air does not move, where every breath you try to take feels trapped in a stillness that seems almost alive. You stand at the entrance of a tomb carved into rock, deep beneath the earth, and the moment you cross the threshold, you notice something strange. There is no wind, no gentle breeze brushing across your face. No sound of shifting sands or whistling air. It is as if the tomb itself holds its breath. You feel your own chest tighten, noticing how every inhale feels precious. Have you ever been in a place so still that even your heartbeat sounds loud? Share in the comments where you are now and if you've ever felt that sudden hush when you walk into an old building or the moment everything pauses right before a storm breaks. That hush can be calming. It can also make you wonder what unseen forces hold everything in place. Before we dive deeper into this mystery, if you're finding this journey into hidden worlds soothing or thought-provoking, consider giving this video a like, leaving a comment, and subscribing so we can explore more ancient wonders together. Now, let's wander into the cool darkness of these breathless tombs and ask, how did ancient people preserve bodies in places with almost no air? And what does that teach us about life, belief, and even the hidden workings of our own minds in a small village high in the mountains, or perhaps a flat desert plain? Survivors of a long-gone culture built burial chambers deep enough that the sun's light never reached inside. The entrances were narrow, often just tall enough for a person to crouch in. Once inside, the walls closed in around you, and you could almost feel the rock itself pressing close. In most caves or tunnels, air finds a way to slip in. Warm air rises, cold air sinks, and gentle currents swirl. But in these tombs, the builders placed stones so precisely and sealed passages so carefully that air from the outside would not flow in. Some say they used heavy stone doors, others say they packed the cracks with clay or resin. Whatever methods they used, the result was the same: a space so still that dust motes floated in place and the faintest echo of your own voice seemed to hang forever. Picture a warm summer day. You sit by an open window, feeling a breeze. You might let your thoughts drift, imagine the clouds drifting too. Maybe you remember an exam where your mind was blank for a moment until a breeze flutters the pages of your notes, reminding you of what you studied. That gentle wind is part of your memory now. But in a breathless tomb, wind has no role. There are no pages to flutter, there are no sounds to stir, other than the quiet drip of moisture from the ceiling. It is a deliberate choice to exclude air, and that choice holds a paradox. Life needs air, and yet here, to preserve the dead, they removed it. Archaeologists have discovered these strange tombs around the world. In some, the bodies inside were so well preserved that even clothing and hair remained intact after centuries. Skin did not turn to dust. Bones did not crumble. It was as if those who lay within slept under an invisible blanket that kept decay at bay. In a world where most lived simply and knew the fragility of life, this was nothing short of miraculous. But to someone living now, it might feel like a trick of chemistry or physics rather than magic. We might blame low oxygen levels, cool temperatures, or specific minerals in the soil. And indeed, modern science suggests that in some of these tombs, the air was so scarce that the bacteria causing decay could not survive. The chill of the rock slowed every process. The bodies entered a kind of state between life and dust, where time could not touch them. Yet the ancient people who built these spaces likely saw more than science. They saw a bridge between worlds. Have you ever sat quietly at dawn and watched the fog lift, revealing shapes you could not see before? Or walked through a silent forest, feeling the hush lift with each step? Those moments remind us that silence is not empty. It is full of possibility. In relationships, we sometimes need quiet to heal a rift. Two people might stop arguing, sit together, and let the stillness between them do the work. In exams, a calm pause can steady your mind, allowing the answers you know to surface. The breathless tombs use this power of stillness to protect the most vulnerable, those who no longer breathed. But there is also a deeper question here, one that touches on belief. In many cultures, the moment of death is not an end, but a passage. Some believed that the soul hovered near the body, and that the tomb must remain undisturbed, so the spirit could find its way to the afterlife. Air, to them, carried not just oxygen but noise, decay, and the interference of the living world. By creating a space void of breath, they gave the spirit room to rest and to depart. It was an act of love and respect. The tomb was a womb-like sanctuary, holding life's final promise. In that silence, the living honored the dead, and the dead were protected from forces unseen. Language sometimes fails to capture this. We have words for decay, rot, mold, crumble, but few words for the sacred hush that surrounds a tomb sealed tight. Some ancient languages referred to still breath or eternal calm in their rituals, but those words did not survive. We only have the stone chambers themselves. The walls speak in silence, carving stories in shadow. When we stand in those breathless spaces, we must listen with more than our ears. We must listen with our hearts. In mental health, silence can be both a refuge and a trap. A moment without noise can calm an anxious mind, but too long without connection can lead to loneliness. Think about someone grieving the loss of a loved one. They might find solace sitting quietly with memories, but if they cannot speak or share with others, the silence can become heavy. The breathless tombs show us that silence is powerful, capable of preserving bodies, but also capable of stifling the living. We need balance. We need spaces of quiet, but we also need air to breathe and voices to comfort us. Now, let's bring in a hint of tomorrow. Artificial intelligence. In our world, AI systems can analyze voices, detect emotions, and even predict when someone might feel isolated or lonely. They listen to the data we leave behind, our texts, our social posts, our search histories. Some worry that as AI becomes more prevalent, we might live in invisible, breathless chambers of data, where our thoughts are sealed away, our bodies preserved only as information. We might trade the calm hush of reflection for the digital silence of being unread. But AI can also remind us that real silence matters. When a smart device senses we're stressed, it might dim the lights or play soft music to bring back a gentle breeze of calm. It can guide us to find that balance between breathlessness and connection. As you reflect on these breathless tombs, remember that the absence of air in a sealed space is not an empty void. It is a deliberate act, an act of preservation, belief, and isolation. In our own lives, we might face moments when we need to seal ourselves off, taking a day without social media, stepping away from noise to write or think. But we must also remember to reopen the door, to let fresh air in, to share our stories, and to breathe deeply with others. Before we move on to our next ancient secret, I want to know, have you ever visited a place so still that your own breath felt loud? Maybe an old church, a silent museum gallery, or a secluded garden before dawn. Share where you felt that hush, and how it changed you. And if this journey into the hidden chambers of the past brought you peace or awakening, consider liking this video, leaving a comment, and subscribing for more. There are more mysteries carved in stone, waiting for us to listen, to feel, and to breathe together. Wandering mountains. Have you ever opened an old map and felt that little chill of surprise, as if the world you know has shifted without warning? Maybe you stared at a map from your grandparents' home, noticed a road that no longer exists, or a town that changed its name. Now imagine an ancient map carved on stone or painted on bark, showing a mountain range that simply vanished by the time later travelers arrived. It's a thought that makes you pause and wonder, can mountains, and with them, the very bones of the earth, really disappear? Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and if you've ever found a place on a map that didn't match what you saw in real life. That small moment of disorientation, like standing at a crossroads and realizing the signpost is pointing to something that isn't there, can be both thrilling and unsettling. In our everyday lives, we see change all around us. Roads are rerouted, buildings are torn down, and neighborhoods are renamed. You might finish an exam, turn the page, and notice a new question you didn't expect. In relationships, people change. Friends move away, family members start new chapters, and sometimes someone you thought you knew vanishes from your life. But mountains, those seem eternal. They are ancient and solid, rising high above the land, silent witnesses to ages long before we walked the earth. Yet in several parts of the world, explorers have uncovered maps dating back 2, 3, even 5,000 years, showing ranges of peaks that no longer cast shadows on the land. Take a map discovered in a remote cave, where a traveler long ago etched mountain silhouettes into clay. That traveler might have lived near a range of hills that today are smooth plains, flattened by centuries of erosion or perhaps a cataclysmic event. Picture standing where those hills once stood, feeling the grass under your feet rather than jagged rock under your boots. It's like flipping through a photo album and seeing your childhood home in a state you've never lived in. Empty fields where you know there is now a busy highway. In another region, historians found a scroll describing trade routes that followed the contours of a mountain chain. Merchants would navigate narrow passes, sharing news of harvests and festivals along the way. But when scholars retraced those paths, they found gentle slopes, not towering peaks. The people living there had no memory of ever climbing high passes or crossing icy ridges. It was as if the mountains had wandered off, leaving only stories and sketches behind. Think about how you plan a journey today. You use an app on your phone that tells you where to go, how long it will take, and what the road looks like. You trust it because you've seen it work. You know where the gas stations are, where to stop for lunch, and when to expect a long stretch of emptiness. Now imagine an explorer in ancient times who trusted a map showing a mountain range that no longer stood. That explorer would set out, expecting cold winds and rocky paths, only to find a flat valley where wildflowers bloomed. How confusing it must have felt, like learning a formula for one test, only to have the exam questions change without warning. This puzzle raises big questions about belief and memory. When a community tells stories of mountains that once guarded their valleys, are those tales myths or memories of a world that truly existed? In some cultures, elders spoke of a great cataclysm, earthquakes, floods, or volcanic eruptions that reshaped the land, swallowing peaks and carving new rivers. In other traditions, mountains were living spirits, moving in response to human actions or divine whims. Those stories might sound like fantasy, but they reflect a deep connection between people and the land. When mountains moved, whether by natural forces or by the power of belief, it changed not just the geography but the community's sense of identity. Language itself shifts over time. Just like landscapes, a word that once meant mountain could come to mean hill as the land eroded. A name for a specific peak might be passed down, even when the peak is gone, shifting to describe a nearby grove or a small hillock. Imagine a child learning of Mount Ember from their grandfather, only to find no Ember Peak on the horizon, yet Ember Hill appears on newer maps. That child feels a quiet ache, a sense of loss for something they never saw but still feel connected to, a ghost of a mountain, remembered in names and songs. In our modern world, mental health often involves grappling with memories that don't match reality. A person might recall childhood summers in a house that was torn down years ago, or a friend who moved away and lives only in old photographs. The mind holds on to places and moments even when they vanish from the physical world. The wandering mountains remind us that our memories can outlive landscapes. They shape our sense of belonging, even when the ground beneath us shifts. Now consider how artificial intelligence and digital mapping have changed our relationship to geography. Today we use satellite images, drones, and GPS to see every inch of the Earth in real time. We can trace a path up a mountain before we ever lace our hiking boots. We can update maps instantly after an earthquake or landslide, but in doing so, we also lose the mystery of change. When mountains vanish in real life, we may not notice because we rely on technology to flag the shift. We might never wonder if a range once stood there because our maps are always correct. That constant certainty can feel comforting, but it can also disconnect us from the land's living history its rise, its fall, and its hidden transformations. So what can we learn from wandering mountains? Perhaps that the world is more fluid than we think, and that the landscapes we rely on can shift over time. It reminds us to stay curious when we look at a map or a screen, and to ask, what stories lie beneath the lines and labels? It teaches us that our own lives, our own beliefs, can shift like tectonic plates underfoot. A job that once felt like a mountain of opportunity can erode into a plain of routine. A belief that seemed solid might crumble under new experiences. And just as ancient travelers had to adapt to missing peaks, we too must adapt when life changes its contours. Before we move on to the next secret, I invite you to share your own experiences with unexpected change. Have you ever visited a place you thought you knew, only to find it transformed? Did you ever feel a sense of loss for something that existed only in stories or old photographs? Let me know where you're watching from and how the landscape of your life has shifted, and if this moment of reflection on mountains that walk away left you with a new sense of wonder, please like this video, subscribe, or share it with someone who appreciates the quiet mysteries hidden in our world. There are more secrets to discover, maps that lead to nowhere, stones that speak, and echoes of a past waiting to be heard. Let's continue this journey together. Fire that froze. Have you ever held an ice cube against a burn and felt a strange relief, as though cold itself could soothe the fire inside your skin? Or maybe you've seen frost on a window that glows soft blue in the morning sun. That cool glow feels almost alive, like a spark you can touch without pain. If you've ever felt that curious mix of warmth and chill, let me know where you are right now and what you felt, perhaps a cool breeze on a warm day, or the surprising comfort of cold water on a fevered forehead. We all have moments when temperature teaches us something unexpected. It's in these small surprises that ancient people found a deeper secret, a healing fire that felt cold to the touch. In old writings discovered in dusty scrolls, healers spoke of a cold flame used to mend wounds. They described applying a substance that burned away pain, yet left the skin cool and unbroken. The words are poetic and strange. They talk about a fire that does not warm, a flame that feels like winter. To us, fire is clear, something that brings heat, consumes, and glows orange or red. But these texts hint at a lost element or secret method that defied our understanding of life's building blocks. Was it a simple metaphor for certain herbs, or did it describe a real substance, once known and now forgotten? Think about a time when you took an exam under a stark lamp, feeling the air around you grow still. Your senses focus on the tiniest sound. A pencil scratching paper, a distant cough, and a drop of sweat on your forehead feels like a blazing coal. Then a friend offers you a paper fan that carries a breeze so cool it feels like it could smother the fire of anxiety. That small act of cooling without water or ice feels almost magical. That tension you felt inside, the burn of stress, softened by a gentle gust. In the same way, ancient healers may have used plants or minerals that, when pressed or mixed, created a reaction that drew heat away from the body. They called this reaction cold fire, because it burned through pain without burning the flesh. In our daily lives, we use cold to heal. We press ice packs on sprains, sip iced drinks to soothe a sore throat, and apply cold compresses when our heads spin from a fever. That simple act of cooling becomes a small ritual of relief. But in ancient times, people didn't have gel packs or refrigerators. They had to rely on ice gathered from mountains, springs that ran through dark caves, and plants that contained menthol-like oils. Some healers crushed leaves into pastes that felt like frost on the skin. Others poured water from deep wells into metal bowls, then set those bowls near charcoal fires until beads of condensation formed, dropping cold liquid onto burns. These methods may have inspired the legends of a healing ice that burns. Yet, beyond these practical uses, the idea of a cold flame touches belief. Many cultures saw fire as sacred. It warmed bodies, lit temples, and guided souls. To imagine a fire that did not burn was to imagine a divine power that controlled the very fabric of nature. This cold fire might have been seen as a gift from the gods, a secret blessing to those who knew how to use it. Think about how we use language today. We speak of a burning desire or a heart on fire to mean passion. But if that passion feels like ice, we struggle to find words. Ancient texts tried to capture that paradox, calling it cold and bright, gentle yet powerful. In relationships, we often feel a similar clash of fire and frost. A harsh word can freeze a friendship, yet leave a burning ache in the heart. When someone we love grows distant, their silence feels like a cold fire that sears our thoughts. And when we finally speak, our words may cut like ice, even if we mean warmth. That paradox lingers in our hearts. Just as ancient healers sought to master the balance of heat and cold, we too learn to balance kindness and honesty, to soothe the burning pain of conflict with a cool gesture of understanding. Modern medicine gives us another clear example. Think about when you go to a doctor's office and see them use cryotherapy or a cold laser to treat pain. A small beam of focused energy may freeze a nerve, numbing it to relieve chronic aches. You might feel a gentle chill, followed by soft relief. The technology today relies on machines and precise control. But ancient healers had only their hands, simple tools, and a deep trust in nature's gifts. They might have wrapped ice in cloth or pressed aloe leaves against a wound. That simple act felt like placing a flame on your skin, an intense coolness that promised healing. On a deeper level, this idea of cold fire touches mental health. Sometimes we feel an inner burn, anxiety that sizzles in our chest or anger that roils beneath our ribs. In those moments, we long for a cool calm, a way to extinguish the emotional blaze without losing ourselves. Meditation, deep breathing, and mindfulness act like a gentle frost, soothing our racing thoughts. We picture those ancient frost healers offering peace to troubled minds, guiding them into a state of calm stillness, like a lamp's flame burning quiet and cool in a silent temple. Now let's consider how artificial intelligence and technology mirror this ancient paradox. Researchers today use data to predict how our bodies respond to treatments, even personalized medicine that adjusts temperature, pressure, and pressure points to soothe pain. AI can model how chemicals react, learning to create compounds that feel like a cold fire against inflammation. It can suggest plant extracts or minerals from far-flung regions, some of which might have been used by healers long ago. In this way, AI becomes a modern path to rediscover that lost knowledge, translating the ancient language of healing into data points we can test, measure, and apply. As you reflect on the idea of a fire that froze, remember that life often hides its secrets in opposites. We chase warmth on a cold night, yet sometimes we need the shock of cold water to wake us. A cup of hot tea feels like a hug, but an ice-cold drink can clear our mind after a long, tiring day. In our own journeys, we balance extremes, work and rest, talk and silence, movement and stillness. The ancient healers who spoke of cold fire understood that true healing comes when we find that balance. They knew that to fight a burning pain, we sometimes need to invite the chill of calm. Before we leave this mystery behind, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever used cold in a surprising way to heal? Perhaps a leaf you pressed on a sting, or a moment when a cool breeze cleared your head during stress. Share your story and where you are watching from. If this exploration of ancient cold fire warmed or cooled your curiosity, please like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who needs a moment of calm. There are more secrets waiting to be uncovered, elements lost to time, stories etched in stone, and paradoxes that remind us how wonderfully strange our world can be. Let's keep discovering together. The sound maze. Have you ever been in a place so silent that when you finally spoke, your own voice sounded like thunder? Imagine stepping into a cool, dim cave, where every footstep feels heavy and every whisper seems to grow into a gentle roar. Now imagine those sounds returning to you in perfect patterns, not as random echoes, but as rhythms that match your own heartbeat. Where are you right now as you hear this? Maybe you're in a quiet room, or perhaps a calm garden. Share in the comments if you've ever been in a space where sound felt alive, like wind rustling through trees, or quiet streets at dawn where your footsteps are the only sound you hear. There's something strange and comforting about those moments, where you feel both alone and deeply connected. Deep beneath the earth, in hidden caves around the world, explorers have discovered tunnels that do more than just amplify noise. These passageways twist and turn, branch and bend, creating a labyrinth of stone that seems to know exactly how to carry sound. When you stand at a certain spot and speak, the tone of your voice travels through the tunnel, bouncing off the walls, in a way that brings it back to you as a soft, guiding pulse. In some caves, that pulse matches the beat of your heart. Imagine placing your hand over your chest, feeling each thump, then pausing for a moment to speak or clap. You listen closely as the cave replies, not with a random echo, but with a heartbeat echo. It's as if the stone itself has learned your rhythm and is gently reminding you that you are alive. Think about a time when your mind raced, maybe before an exam or during a difficult conversation, and you wished for a calm place where you could just be. In those moments, you might have closed your eyes and taken a slow, deep breath, trying to steady your heartbeat. That act of focusing on your pulse, hearing it in your own ears, can quiet the mind. Now imagine doing that in a natural chamber of rock, where the cave does part of the work for you, matching your heartbeat so you know you are heard, you are seen, you are part of something larger. It's not just an echo, it's a shared moment between you and the earth. These caves weren't accidental creations. Ancient peoples may not have built them, but they found them and recognized their power. Some tribes gathered there for rituals, speaking words of healing or telling stories that wove their communities together. As each voice echoed back in sync with a heart, it reminded everyone present of their shared humanity. It was a powerful tool, sound that traveled, circled, and returned as comfort. Have you ever had a conversation with a close friend and felt like their response hit you in your chest? That feeling of being understood, even before they finish their sentence, is part of what makes the human voice so special. In relationships, we lean into that moment of connection, seeing a friend's eyes light up, or hearing a comforting tone that matches our mood. In a sound maze, the relationship is between you and the cave itself. When your pulse aligns with the echo, it's as if the cave is passing you a silent message. You belong here. We are connected. That message can echo long after you leave, guiding you when you feel lost or alone. From a bigger perspective, these caves touch on belief. In many cultures, the heartbeat was considered the seat of the soul. When people heard their pulse in the echo, they believed the cave was speaking to their spirit. Some thought the cave was alive, breathing with them, sharing life forces. It bridged the gap between the physical and the spiritual. When a healer stood inside and sang, their voice became a chant weaving through stone, healing wounds not just on the body, but on the mind and heart. The cave became a partner in that healing, a silent guide through sounds shaped by nature's hand. Language itself feels small compared to a heartbeat echo. Words are fragile, they fit into sentences and rely on meaning we agree upon. But a pulse is universal. Every human has a heart that beats. No translation needed. When the cave returns your heartbeat as sound, it speaks in a language older than words. It reminds us that before letters and scripts, we lived by rhythm. The rise and fall of breath, the beat of drums, the whisper of wind. Now, as we type messages or scroll through screens, we might forget that heartbeat, that ancient rhythm. The cave's echo brings it back, reminding us of what truly matters. In our modern world, mental health often requires us to find ways to calm our racing minds. We turn to apps for guided meditation, to music playlists for focus, or to quiet walks in nature. But these echoing tunnels show us another path. Sometimes the earth itself offers the calm we need. Listening to sound shaped by stone, in a place untouched by traffic or screens, can slow our thoughts and bring us back to the present moment. Think about how you feel when you lie in bed at night, listening to your own breath. That simple act can help you let go of worries. In the cave, the echo does more than carry sound. It holds it up, reflecting it to you in a way that says, "I see you." Imagine a small chamber lit by a single lantern, shadows flickering on rough walls. As you whisper your name, you feel a soft pulse echo around you, slowly fading like a heartbeat in the dark. You realize that this cave doesn't just shape sound by chance. The walls are curved just so, the floor smooth enough to let the tone roll, the tunnels positioned to bounce sound back at a pace matching the human heart. It's a design by nature, or by whatever force carved those caverns so long ago. Whether it was wind and water, or the careful work of ancient people who understood how stone and sound meet, the result is a sanctuary for the human spirit. Now let's think about our future with artificial intelligence. AI systems today can analyze our voices, detect emotions, even predict when we're feeling anxious. They learn our patterns, how we speak when we're happy, sad, or stressed. But no machine can match the poetic echo of a heartbeat in a natural cave. The cave doesn't analyze or judge, it simply listens and responds. In a world where AI often measures data and quantifies feelings, these sound mazes remind us of the value in just being heard. They teach us that healing can come from the simplest of things: a space, a stone, and the rhythm of our own heart. As you reflect on this echo of life, consider your own heartbeat. Take a moment wherever you are and place your hand over your chest. Feel the steady beat beneath your fingers. Now imagine that beat returning to you as a gentle echo from a hidden cave. Let that thought sink in. Let it remind you that beneath all the noise of daily life, phones buzzing, cars honking, thoughts racing, there is a quieter rhythm guiding you, the pulse of being alive. Before we move on to uncover the next secret hidden by time, I invite you to share your own experiences with echoes and silence. Have you ever spoken in a quiet space and heard your voice come back in a surprising way? Maybe in a vast hall, under a bridge, or inside a mountain tunnel? Let us know where you are, watching from, and how it made you feel to hear your own heartbeat bounce back. If this journey into the sound maze brings you peace or a sense of wonder, please like this video, subscribe for more deep dives, or share it with someone who loves discovering the Earth's hidden rhythms. There are more secrets waiting, echoes to follow, and heartbeats to hear. Let's keep listening together. Invisible inks. Have you ever opened a letter or a note and felt nothing? Blank paper, empty lines, as if your words disappeared into thin air. But late at night, under the soft glow of the moon, hidden letters suddenly appear, as if by magic. Where are you right now as you listen to this? Perhaps you're lying in bed, or sitting by a window with moonlight streaming in. Take a moment to notice how the dim light feels gentle on your skin. Share in the comments if you've ever glimpsed something unexpected in moonlight. Perhaps words on a page or a hidden shape in a photograph. That quiet surprise, that gentle unveiling, is where the story of invisible inks begins. In ancient times, scribes and scholars discovered that certain plants, minerals, and even their own bodily fluids could serve as secret inks. When they wrote on parchment or paper, the message stayed hidden under normal light. But when a reader held the scroll under moonlight, or sometimes a gentle firelight, the letters emerged, pale and glowing. It was as if the message lived in the shadows, waiting for night's soft kiss to awaken. Imagine the thrill of reading a blank scroll, only to witness those ghostly words come to life. It's a feeling that reminds us how much of life can remain unseen until the right moment reveals the truth. Think back to a time when you stared at a computer screen preparing for an exam. You might have written notes in one color, then changed the text color to white on a white background, making the words invisible until you highlighted them. In relationships, Sometimes we avoid saying difficult things outright, leaving hints in our tone or body language, silent messages that only a close friend might catch. Those unspoken signals are like invisible inks in our daily lives. We hide feelings or thoughts, hoping they'll be revealed only under the right conditions. We trust that someone paying close attention will see through the blankness and find the real message underneath. Across the ancient world, invisible inks took many forms. In Egypt, scribes used lemon juice and milk as hidden ink. When the parchment dried, the juice turned pale and nearly transparent, but when heated, just a bit, those letters browned, revealing the hidden script. In ancient Greece, people experimented with vinegar, plant oils, and even fermented fish guts, discovering each substance reacted differently under heat or certain types of light. These methods weren't just for spies or secret lovers. They also served in spiritual and sacred practices. Some believed that messages written in invisible ink carried a piece of the writer's soul, meant to be shared only under moonlit ceremonies. As the moon waxed and waned, they felt connected to something larger, cycles of hidden meaning waiting to emerge. Consider how language works today. We speak in euphemisms, soft phrases that hide sharper truths. A friend might say, "I'm fine," when they feel anything but, hoping only someone who truly cares will notice the invisible tension behind the words. In our digital era, we use emojis or GIFs that can carry layers of meaning. A simple smiley face might hide sadness. Just as invisible inks require a special key, moonlight, heat, or chemicals, so do hidden emotions. We look for small signs, a hesitation, a lowered gaze, a slight tremor in the voice. Those subtle clues guide us to the real message beneath the surface. The paradox is that sometimes what we hide becomes more powerful than what we show. In our minds, invisible inks mirror the way our unconscious works. Think about a time when a memory surfaced unexpectedly. Maybe a scent reminded you of a place you haven't visited in years. Suddenly, images and feelings you thought were gone come rushing back. This process is like writing in invisible ink on the page of your mind. The memory is there, but you need the right cue, sight, sound, or smell, to reveal it. Many ancient healers and seers used hidden messages to tap into these deep memories. They believed a secret note, read under moonlight, could unlock healing or wisdom buried in the soul. In modern mental health, therapists sometimes use guided imagery or dream work to help patients bring hidden thoughts to light. It's a gentle process, like warming parchment, until the invisible ink turns dark, making conscious what was once unseen. Technology today has its own version of invisible ink. When you encrypt a message on your phone, it remains hidden until you unlock it with a password or a fingerprint. In cybersecurity, data is stored in a way that looks like gibberish until the right key reveals its true form. Artificial intelligence can even detect patterns humans might miss, like hidden sentiments in text or subtle signs of illness in images that we would never see on our own. AI tools can analyze handwriting or faint discolorations on old manuscripts, helping scholars recover messages that have remained invisible for centuries. In that sense, AI becomes a modern moonlight, illuminating hidden texts and stories long thought lost. Yet, despite our technology, there remains a poetic magic in invisible inks of old. Picture a scholar in a dimly lit room, carefully heating a scroll over smoldering coals until the hidden letters appeared in soft brown lines. There's a ritual to that process, a sense of patience and wonder that we can still feel today. It reminds us that not all knowledge is meant to be revealed at once. Sometimes waiting for the right light, whether moonlight, inner reflection, or a moment of insight, makes the message more powerful. Just as a flower opens at dawn, invisible ink flourishes under moon's glow. In a relationship, consider when you trust someone enough to share your deepest fears or hidden dreams. You write them down with invisible ink, metaphorically speaking, and give them only to someone who will hold the scroll under moonlight. Only they see the whole truth. That level of trust is rare and precious. It teaches us that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's a gift that glows brightest in the right moment. Many people suffer because they keep their feelings hidden like invisible ink. waiting for someone else to discover them. Sometimes all it takes is a gentle question. Are you okay? A soft light that encourages hidden words to appear. As you think about invisible inks, remember how powerful it can be to look beyond the obvious. Next time you feel drawn to hide something, whether it's a note, a thought, or an emotion, consider what might happen if you let it be seen under the right light. And when you receive silence from someone else, remember that invisible words may still exist, waiting for you to ask the gentle question that brings them into the open. Before we move on to the next hidden secret, I invite you to share your own experiences with hidden messages. Have you ever written a note in disappearing ink as a child, or used a code to keep a diary safe? Maybe you felt the sting of unspoken words in a relationship, emotions you sensed but couldn't hear. Tell us where you're watching from and how you've revealed hidden truths in your life. If this journey into invisible inks stirred something in you, curiosity, comfort, or revelation, please like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who needs a moment of quiet wonder. There are more ancient mysteries waiting to be seen with new eyes, and sometimes the right light is all we need. Burn-proof scrolls. Have you ever watched a piece of paper curl at the edges as it catches flame, feeling the air heat up and the scent of smoke fill the room? Imagine that same moment, but instead of seeing ashes drift away, you find the parchment still whole, the ink untouched. Where are you right now as you hear this? Maybe you're sitting by a warm window or curled up under a blanket in a quiet room. Take a moment to notice how safe you feel. Now consider what would happen if something you held dear, like a favorite book or a family letter, faced fire and came out unscathed. Share in the comments if you've ever lost something precious to flame, or if you've ever witnessed an object survive a disaster and felt a spark of wonder in your heart. In temples built centuries ago, ancient manuscripts lay carefully stored, written on delicate parchment or thin strips of papyrus. These sacred texts held prayers, stories, and wisdom that guided entire communities. Yet fires still broke out, whether from candles left burning too long, accidental sparks, or even intentional acts of destruction by invaders. We would expect those manuscripts to turn to ash within seconds. But in several temples around the world, explorers and historians have uncovered scrolls that look untouched by fire. The edges are blackened, but the text remains clear. The pages are brittle, yes, but not a single word has faded or burned away. It's as if these scrolls carried a secret shield against flame, a paradox that challenges everything we know about fire and fragile materials. Think back to a time when you left a cup of coffee too close to an open window during a storm. A sudden gust knocked it over, but somehow it landed on a soft towel, sparing your carpet from a stain. You might say that towel saved the day. In the same way, some scholars believe these scrolls were wrapped, coated, or stored in such a way that flames could not reach the paper directly. They might have been sealed inside clay jars, tucked into metal boxes, or layered with natural substances that resisted heat. Just as that towel protected your rug, those ancient wrappings could have protected the scrolls. Yet, the fact remains that many of these containers caught fire themselves, leaving the scrolls inside intact. It's like watching a rainstorm pour on a plastic bag and finding the dry letter inside as if it never met a drop. In our own lives, we see small miracles of protection every day. A carefully folded rain jacket might keep you dry when a sudden shower drenches everyone else. A smartphone kept in a waterproof case may survive a drop into a pond, saving precious photos and contacts. Those small shields remind us that with thought and care, we can preserve what is important. But the ancient people did this long before nylon or plastic existed. They used natural resins, animal fats, or layers of fabric soaked in certain oils to coat their scrolls. These coverings hardened into a seal that dreaded flame rather than igniting. In essence, the makers of these manuscripts created a primitive but effective fireproof jacket for their most valued words. Still, there's more. than just clever wrapping at play. Some researchers believe that the materials used to make the ink itself helped protect the text. Inks made from mineral pigments, mixed with oils, egg whites, or plant extracts, could form a layer that repelled heat for a brief moment. When fire licked the scroll, the ink might create a barrier, causing the paper to char around the letters but leaving the writing legible. It's as if the very words resisted destruction, clinging to life while everything else turned to dust. Imagine writing a note in letters that glow slightly, then watching the world around you burn. But those glowing letters refuse to fade. That sense of defiance inspires us to believe that some messages are meant to endure, no matter what. In relationships, we often talk about memories or promises that survive tough times. Think about a friendship tested by distance and disagreements. Sometimes, even when everything seems to fall apart, the bond remains. You might lose touch for years, but when you reunite, it is as if no time has passed. That unbroken connection feels like a burn-proof scroll in the book of human hearts, something rare and precious. Likewise, these ancient manuscripts remind us that some truths, some stories, hold power beyond the moment. They carry a resilience that outlasts disasters. They teach us that with care and intention, we can protect what matters most. On a deeper level, the idea of burn-proof scrolls touches belief. In many cultures, written words carried divine power. To burn a sacred text was to challenge the gods themselves. So, when these scrolls survived a temple fire, people believed it was a miracle, a sign that the words were protected by higher forces. In one village, villagers witnessed a blaze consume wood, clay, and fabric, yet the stack of wrapped scrolls in the corner remained undisturbed. They saw the letters glow faintly in the dark, as though the words themselves repelled the flames. From that moment, the scrolls became living relics, symbols of faith, endurance, and divine favor. People traveled miles to touch those pages, to feel that spark of protection, hoping it might carry a blessing into their own lives. Language plays a role too. The very act of writing something down transforms it. A spoken word can be forgotten in a whisper, but a written word has weight. It travels through time. When scribes inked their prayers and wisdom, they gave those words a tangible form. Even if the scroll faced death by fire, the essence of the message could not vanish. It lived on in memory, in oral tradition, and now, in the charred but legible pages we discover centuries later. That speaks to a truth we feel today. When we write something meaningful, whether a diary entry, a love letter, or a simple note to ourselves, it can help us hold on to secrets we fear might slip away. Writing itself becomes an act of preservation. Unwind. Mental health? We learn that sometimes we need to face our own inner fires, our anxieties, our fears, rather than letting them consume us. Imagine writing down a painful memory on a piece of paper and then carefully burning the edges, watching the fire turn the page to ash. You might feel a moment of release, but also a tinge of sorrow as the words vanish. Now imagine writing those words on a burn-proof scroll. Knowing the fire might dance around them, but the text will remain. That changes how we face loss. It reminds us that sometimes healing comes not from destroying our pain, but from acknowledging it and creating a safe space to hold it. We write our fears so they cannot hurt us when flames of emotion rise. We burn the edges to test their strength, and as the words stay, we feel we can survive anything. Looking ahead to our digital age, we see our own version of burn-proof scrolls. We save our most precious memories in the cloud, photos of loved ones, important documents, family history. We back up files on hard drives, on external disks, on multiple platforms, hoping that even if one device fails, the data endures. Artificial intelligence now helps us predict hardware failures, scans our devices for signs of corruption, and suggests ways to keep our digital lives safe. In a sense, these tools act as modern seals against the flames of time and technology. Yet we must also remember that digital data can be hacked, corrupted, or forgotten if not properly maintained. The burn-proof scrolls teach us that resilience requires care, intention, and sometimes a touch of spiritual faith that our efforts will hold. As you think about these ancient burn-proof scrolls, consider your own life. What words, what stories, what memories are you writing down today to protect them from loss? Maybe you keep a journal, or record voice notes, or photograph moments that matter. Perhaps you have a family recipe book, passed down through generations, each page stained, with the hands of those who cooked before you. Those pages are your scrolls. They carry a kind of protection against the fires of forgetfulness. They remind us to take a moment, wherever we are, to capture what matters in a form that can endure. Before we close this chapter and move on to the next hidden secret, I invite you to share in the comments. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a modern-day miracle of preservation? Did you lose a device but recover your precious files? Did a cherished gift survive a disaster and feel like a message from another time? Let us know where you're watching from and how you protect what you love. If this journey into the world of burn-proof scrolls brought you calm or inspired you to safeguard your own stories, please like this video, subscribe for more explorations, and share it with someone who values resilience. There are more ancient wonders waiting to offer us lessons in strength, belief, and the quiet power of words that refuse to vanish. Let's keep discovering them together. Bird-shaped keys. Have you ever held a small object in your hand and felt a strange thrill, as if it carried a secret meant only for you? Imagine discovering a tiny metal key, shaped like a bird, so finely made that it fits perfectly into a matching hole carved in stone. Where are you right now as you hear this? Maybe you're sitting comfortably by a window or resting on a soft chair. Take a moment to notice the space around you. Now share in the comments if you've ever found something unexpected on a walk, perhaps a feather, a coin, or a small toy that suddenly made you wonder who it belonged to. That small hidden connection to someone else's story is at the heart of the mystery of bird-shaped keys. Deep in mountain ruins and desert valleys, archaeologists have unearthed these curious keys. They are not simple tools to open doors. Instead, they are carved into the shapes of birds, sometimes eagles, sometimes doves, sometimes birds that no longer live in that region. Each key fits perfectly into a slot in stone, like a puzzle piece crafted for a single moment of use. But we do not know what door, chest, or secret passage they unlocked. In many cases, the key sits beside its stone socket, but there is no obvious lock, no hidden chamber, and no record of what lay beyond. It feels as if someone built a key and a matching hole, then vanished, taking the secret with them. Think about a time when you studied hard for an exam, memorizing facts and formulas, only to see a single question on the test that didn't fit anything you'd learned. You feel a rush of confusion. You wonder if you missed something important. You might glance around at your classmates. Perhaps they feel it too. That sense of missing a key piece of information is similar to what we feel when we see these bird-shaped keys. We know they were meant to open something, we see how they fit, but the missing part, the door or box they unlocked, is nowhere to be found. It leaves us with a puzzle that tugs at our curiosity. In our daily lives, we value symbols that promise answers. A key in a story often stands for hope, for possibility, for a hidden path forward. When we lose our house keys, we feel stuck. We worry. We imagine the door locked forever. But when that same key appears again, we feel relief, a sense of returning to safety. The bird-shaped keys may have offered that promise to ancient people. Perhaps they opened a sacred chest full of offerings, or a hidden shrine where only priests could enter. We can almost hear the hush of a ritual, a ceremony where a bird-shaped key is placed, the door swings open, and a hush falls as the priest steps inside. Without knowing what lay beyond, we can still sense that magic in our imaginations. Some researchers believe these keys were more than practical tools. They might have served as symbols of authority or faith. In a small village, the chief might hold a bird-shaped key to show that he was chosen by the spirits. The key would fit into a stone altar each morning, unlocking a ritual of praise or a shared meal. In another region, a healer might place the key in a carved stone figure to invite protection over the sick. Without any written records, we must draw on our understanding of how symbols shape human life. Have you ever worn a piece of jewelry, a locket, a ring, that felt like it carried meaning beyond its shape? You might not tell everyone about it, but it holds a private story. The bird-shaped keys could have held similar stories for those who crafted and used them. Look around you now. Perhaps you see a plant pot, a book, or even a picture on the wall. Each object holds memories and stories, gifts from someone we care about, pages we turned late into the night, snapshots of moments we treasure. The bird-shaped key, though silent, seems to whisper stories we cannot hear. It asks us to imagine what it once unlocked. Treasure, wisdom, a secret chamber filled with candlelight. Even though we cannot find the lock, we can hold the key and let our minds wander. We become part of its story, as if we could see through the key's eyes and glimpse the world it once opened. That brings us to bigger themes. In belief, the bird has often symbolized freedom, the soul, or a messenger between earth and sky. Think of how a dove appears in many traditions as a sign of peace, or how a phoenix rises from ashes as a symbol of renewal. The bird-shaped key might have carried those same meanings. When the key touched its stone recess, it was not just a mechanical act. It was a moment of connection between human and spirit, between earth and sky. It was a prayer made in shape, a silent hymn carved in metal. It reminds us that even in silence and stillness, we reach for something beyond ourselves. Language beside. It feels too small. We write words on pages, but that key is a living sentence in metal. It tells us, "Seek the place where earth and sky meet." It might have spoken to people who believed in the power of symbols more than words. In mental health, we see how even a small symbol, a ribbon for awareness, a wristband for support, can bring comfort and solidarity. The bird-shaped key, though silent, may have brought comfort to those who held it. It served as a reminder that someone cared, that someone shaped metal by hand to honor a bond bigger than a doorway. Now think about our world of artificial intelligence. Today, algorithms can recognize faces, translate languages, even compose music. But can they understand the silent story of a bird-shaped key? AI could scan the shape, compare it to thousands of symbols, and maybe guess its origin or age. But can it grasp the feeling of holding that key in your hand, knowing it fits perfectly into a stone socket, yet feeling the missing weight of what it unlocks? That emotional resonance defies data. It belongs to our shared human imagination, to our ability to sense the unseen. The key reminds us that not every problem can be solved by code. Some mysteries are meant to stay, nudging us to look deeper, to listen more closely, and to hold on to wonder. Have you ever lost something that seemed small? A pen, a photo, a small toy, but it left a larger gap in your memory? You remember where you set it. You retrace your steps. You feel the tug of wanting it back. That sense of loss can be sharp, even though the object itself was tiny. The bird-shaped keys survived centuries under earth, hidden from thieves and storms. Yet they lost the doors they once opened. We feel that same tug when a long-ago thing vanishes from our lives. The key in its lonely silence holds our compassion. It says, "You are not alone in feeling that loss." Before we leave this mystery and move on to the next hidden secret, I invite you to share your own stories of lost objects that carried meaning. Perhaps a locket slipped through a crack, or a ticket stub to a first concert you attended. Tell us where you're watching from and what small thing you wish you could find again. If this journey into the world of bird-shaped keys brought a moment of wonder or calm, please like this video, subscribe for more explorations, and share it with someone who loves uncovering the gentle mysteries of our past. There are more secrets waiting for us to touch, to imagine, and to feel. Let's keep searching together. Dream walls. Have you ever woken up from a dream so vivid that, for a moment, you weren't sure if it was real or not? Imagine stepping into a special room designed just to make those dreams even more alive. Rooms where the walls themselves seem to guide your thoughts into deeper, richer visions. If you've ever had a dream that felt so real you could almost touch it, share where you're watching from in the comments and tell us what you remember most from last night's sleep. Maybe the color of the sky, the sound of rain, or a face you saw. That simple act of sharing connects us all, reminding us how our minds wander and explore when we rest. Across ancient ruins, archaeologists have uncovered places where people carved symbols and painted images on the walls, but not just for decoration. Many of these rooms are sealed at night to keep out light, and they are shaped in ways that soften sound, muffle noise, and create a gentle hush. Some are painted with soothing colors, pale blues, soft greens, and muted earth tones. Others have floors made of materials that feel warm underfoot, or ceilings that draw the eye in gentle curves. All of it seems designed to encourage the mind to drift into dreams that feel more vivid, more meaningful, almost like guided stories unfolding behind closed eyelids. In a modern bedroom, we might hang dark curtains or use a white noise machine to help us sleep. But these ancient rooms went further. They used every detail to influence the dreams themselves. Think about the last time you tried to remember a dream upon waking. You might lie still, eyes closed, focusing on a small detail, a song you heard, a color you saw, or a conversation you had. That quiet moment lets the memory float up, like a leaf on a still pond. In these dream walls, the very design seems to help that leaf drift gently to the surface. Imagine if, instead of a plain ceiling, your room had murals of swirling stars and soft, flowing lines that guided your imagination. Imagine laying your head on a pillow that felt just the right weight so your body feels supported but free. In an ancient dream room, every sense was invited to relax, so the line between sleeping and dreaming, between the body and the mind, became softer and more fluid. In everyday life, we see how our environment shapes our thoughts. On a rainy day, we might feel calmer, more introspective, as the sound of raindrops slows our mind. When we walk through a forest, the dappled light and gentle rustle of leaves can lead us toward peaceful, reflective states. In relationships, a warm smile from a friend can reassure us, bringing comfort that lingers after we part ways. In a dream room, the same principle applies. The colors, the shapes, the textures all work together to guide the sleeper's mind into a state of gentle wonder, almost like stepping into a half-awake story. The designers of these rooms may not have had modern science books on sleep, but they observed how simple changes, a soft red glow in the corner, the curve of a wall, could shape the way people dreamed. That brings us to belief. In many ancient cultures, dreams were not just random images. They were messages from beyond, from gods or ancestors. They believed that certain dreams could heal the sick, guide journeys, or even predict the future. Priests and healers would invite people to spend the night in a special dream room, hoping that the sacred design would encourage visions of guidance, healing, or prophecy. Imagine a patient with a painful ailment entering a room where gentle symbols of healing, flowing lines, images of herbs, and soft animal forms covered the walls. The room would feel safe, nurturing. In that soft space, the patient might have dreams of finding relief, of a caring figure offering comfort, or of their body growing stronger. When they woke, they believed that vision had real power to guide their healing in the day ahead. In modern therapy, we use visualization techniques to reduce pain, imagining soothing colors or calm landscapes. These ancient rooms did the same, but through architecture and art, creating a physical environment that shaped the mind's eye. Language and symbols also played a crucial role. Some dream walls are covered in symbols that look like glyphs or simple drawings, a bird in flight, a winding river, or a spiral at the center. These shapes might represent journeys of the soul, cycles of life, or connections between earth and sky. In modern psychology, we know that symbols can unlock hidden thoughts in our subconscious. A spiral might remind us of growth or change. A bird might represent freedom or transition. When these symbols are painted on walls, They become part of the dreamer's mindscape. If you see a gentle river painted above your pillow, you might dream of floating on calm water, drifting toward a safe shore. If you see a spiral near the ceiling, you might dream of moving in circles until you find a hidden center. It's as if the room whispers to the dreamer, guiding their imagination with subtle cues. In our everyday moments, we experience small hints of this. Have you ever looked up at a patterned ceiling in a mall, a train station, or a church, and felt your eyes soften, your breathing slow? That simple act of looking at a careful design can calm us, remind us to let go of tension, and open our minds to gentle thoughts. In a dream room, those patterns become invitations to deeper exploration, turning worry into wonder, restlessness into reflection, and everyday concerns into images that might teach or heal us in sleep. Today, we use apps that track our sleep, playing soft tones when we reach deep stages of rest. We create bedtime routines, reading a calm book, dimming lights, or sipping warm tea, to invite better dreams. Yet, there's something ancient and human about stepping into a specially crafted room where every curve, every color, and every symbol works together to guide the sleeper's mind. It's a reminder that long before we had research labs and sleep scientists, people noticed how simple changes around them, changing a room's shape, covering a ceiling with moon-like patterns, could shift their inner world. That insight still matters when we prepare for sleep. Maybe tomorrow night you'll place a small plant by your bedside, or draw a simple shape on a piece of paper and tuck it under your pillow, inviting a gentler dream. The secret of dream walls is that you don't need an echoing chamber or hidden glyphs to shape your sleep. You need a gentle space, a few soft symbols, and an openness to let your mind wander without fear. That brings us to mental health. In stressful times, our minds race before we sleep. Thoughts of deadlines, worries about relationships, and fears about tomorrow keep us awake. But in a gentle space, one that feels safe and softly guides our thoughts, we can learn to let go. Just as those ancient rooms use shape and color to guide healing dreams, we can use simple rituals, dimming lights, playing soft sounds, or writing down our worries on a scrap of paper that we leave by the door. We do this so our mind stops circling the same concerns and starts drifting toward rest. That act of caring for our sleep is as important as caring for our bodies. It reminds us that healing often happens when we let go, when we trust our dreams to unfold in a safe space. Finally, consider how artificial intelligence is exploring dreams today. Scientists use AI to analyze brainwaves during sleep, seeking patterns that reveal how dreams form. They hope to one day decode the images we see, offering new ways to help people with nightmares or sleep disorders. Yet, as advanced as AI may become, it still depends on solid data. Pictures of brain waves, images of sleeping brains, and notes from dream journals. The ancient dream walls remind us that the heart of dreaming is simple. It's about creating a calm, caring space where our minds feel safe to wander. No algorithm can replace the gentle truth of lying in a quiet room, surrounded by soft symbols, and feeling a peaceful hush wash over you as you drift into sleep. As we leave this world of dream walls behind and move on to the next hidden secret, I invite you to share your bedtime rituals. Do you listen to a certain song as you fall asleep? Do you write in a journal or place a small object by your bed? Let us know where you're watching from and what helps you drift into peaceful dreams. If this exploration brought calm or inspired you to create a gentler bedtime space, please like this video, subscribe for more hidden wonders, and share it with someone who could use a softer night's rest. There are more ancient mysteries waiting to help us remember that sleep is not just the end of a day, but the beginning of a gentle journey within. Voice stones. Have you ever spoken in a quiet place and thought you heard someone answer, even when no one else was there? Imagine standing among ancient ruins, saying a single word, and hearing a whisper return. Soft, almost human, but not quite. What you said. Where are you right now as you listen to this? Maybe you're in a cozy room, or perhaps a calm garden under a pale sky. Take a moment to notice your own voice. How it sounds when you speak a simple word. Share in the comments if you've ever heard your name called in an empty hallway, or felt sure someone whispered to you even when no one was nearby. Those moments make us pause, wondering if our minds are playing tricks, or if hidden echoes are guiding us. Deep in mountain valleys and desert canyons, explorers have found stones that seem to hold voices in their cracks and grooves. You stand in a circle of weathered pillars. You say, "Hello?" and moments later, a soft echo returns, though the ruins are empty. You hear, "Hello," but it's not exactly your voice. It's like the stone shaped your word into something new. You try again. This time the ruin whispers back a question you did not ask. Your heartbeat quickens. It feels like the walls know you, like they remember something you forgot. In these places, the stones themselves become storytellers. They turn a word into a puzzle, a simple sound into a search for meaning. Think about a time when you whispered a secret to a friend and heard them repeat it, but with a twist. The change in tone or a single word can make you wonder, did they really hear me? Did they want me to say that? In relationships, a small slip of sound can lead to confusion or even hurt. You might say, "I'm okay," but what you really feel is sadness. If someone hears only the words, they miss the hidden meaning. The voice stones do something similar. They take your words and return them altered, as if the stone feels your hidden thoughts. It reminds us that sound is more than vibrations in the air. It is emotion, memory, and intent all rolled into one. When an echo returns a word you did not say, it makes you think about what you meant to say and what you truly feel. In everyday life, we might hear echoes in tunnels or canyons by accident. You shout across a valley to your friend, and your voice comes back, faint but clear. It makes you smile, hearing your own sound bounce off distant rocks, but the voice stones are more than simple echoes. They have a shape and texture that warp the sound. They seem to know which frequencies to hold and which to let fade. It's like talking into a seashell on a beach, yet these stones can whisper back even the softest syllable you speak. Some say ancient builders carved grooves and hollows to create these effects. Others believe the stones themselves developed these patterns over centuries of wind and rain. Either way, the result is a place where sound feels alive, as if the walls are listening and learning. Have you ever taken an exam in a silent room, hoping you knew the answers, but feeling comfort in a friend's small cough or pen scratch? Those tiny sounds remind you that you are not alone. In the ruins, the voice stones become companions. At first you feel tense, unsure if an echo is just a trick of physics, but then you realize it can bring calm. You say a stressful thought, "I am afraid." The stones return a soft sigh. It feels like a gentle nudge, as if someone else shares your worry and wants you to know you are understood. In that moment, you feel less alone. It's as if the stone itself cares. In relationships, we look for that same reassurance. A nod, a smile, a gentle whisper that says, "I hear you." The voice stones offer that comfort in their own way. On a deeper level, these whispering stones touch belief. Many cultures saw sound as a bridge to the spirit world. A voice could carry prayers to the sky, and echoes could be messages from ancestors. In some traditions, people believed that spirits lived in the stones and spoke through echoes. When a traveler passed through the ruins, they might call out a wish or a question, hoping the stone would return an answer. Will I find safety? Will I marry my true love? And if a whisper returned, they took it as a sign, an unseen guide calling back. It reminds us how sound can carry more than meaning. It can carry comfort, warning, and hope. Even now, when we hear a sudden echo in a place we thought silent, we feel a chill, a sense that we are connected to something larger than ourselves. Language itself feels fragile when echoes shape it. A single word can shift in an echo, taking on new meaning. Imagine saying, "I am happy," and hearing back a soft, "I am lost." That simple change shakes your mind. You think, did I say that? Am I lost? It makes you question your own thoughts. In mental health, that can be both unsettling and eye-opening. Hearing your own words twisted back can reveal hidden anxieties or worries you did not know you held. It can be a gentle nudge to pay attention to your inner voice, to ask yourself what you really feel. If a ruin's echo can show you hidden thoughts, maybe you can learn to listen more closely to your own mind, noticing when your heart whispers fears you have not yet spoken. Now consider artificial intelligence, which tries to learn from our voices. Today, voice assistants can pick up our commands, turn them into text, and find answers in seconds. But they still struggle with tone, emotion, and nuance. An AI might hear the words, "that's fine," and type them, but miss the sadness behind your voice. In contrast, the voice stones do not use algorithms. They respond to every subtle shift: your pitch, your pace, your breath. When you speak a word, the stone listens and returns a new pattern. It does not judge or translate. It simply whispers back, inviting you to notice all the layers of sound. In a world where AI often shapes our messages, the voice stones remind us that the true meaning of sound lies beyond data, in the space where heart and mind meet. These whispering walls also teach us about memory. Sound can trigger memories we thought lost. A simple echo might remind you of laughing with friends in a cave when you were a child, or it might bring back a lullaby sung by someone who is now gone. The voice stones hold those vibrations in their shapes. They carry the memory of every sound they have heard, blending them together until each new word you speak merges with the ancient chorus. Standing there, you feel time wrap around you. You hear your own voice, but it is layered with echoes of the past, voices you will never meet, thoughts you will never know. In that swirl, you understand that we are all part of a larger song, a song passed down through stone and breath. Before we move on to the next hidden secret, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a place where echoes felt alive? Maybe a cave, a tunnel, or even an empty room at home where your voice seemed to carry more than sound. Share where you're watching from, and describe the moment you heard an echo that felt like a whisper from another time. If this journey into voice stones brought you a sense of calm or wonder, please like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who loves the gentle mysteries hidden in our world. There are more secrets to uncover, echoes waiting to be heard, stories waiting to be whispered. Let's keep listening together. Gods without names. Have you ever felt a presence in a quiet place, as if something or someone watched over you, but you could not put a name to it? Imagine visiting an old temple where people once knelt in prayer, leaving offerings on stone altars. You see empty niches and carved statues whose faces are worn, yet you feel that something sacred still lingers. Where are you right now as you hear this? Maybe you're in a silent room, or sitting beside a window as light filters through the leaves. Take a moment to notice how stillness can speak volumes. Share in the comments if you've ever sensed something important without knowing exactly what it was, or if you've ever visited a place that felt quietly alive even though no one else was there. If you're finding these hidden stories calming or thought-provoking, please consider liking this video, leaving a comment, and subscribing before we dive deeper. Your support helps us bring more ancient mysteries to light, and your thoughts enrich this shared journey. Long ago, in many cultures, people built grand temples to honor gods whose names were forgotten or never spoken. There are places where no inscription remains, no carved letters to tell us who was worshipped there. We see steps leading up to platforms, rows of pillars, and empty thrones carved from stone. The signs of reverence are clear. Offerings of fruit, pottery shards, perhaps a circle of stones once lit by candles, but the identity of the deity is lost. It feels like finding a photograph without a name written on the back. You sense the importance of the image, but you do not know the story it once held. In everyday life, we experience similar moments. Perhaps you once saw a painting in a friend's house and felt drawn to it, but when you asked about the artist, they only shrugged and said, "I'm not sure." You remember the colors, the shapes, and the feeling it gave you, yet the name remains unknown. Or think about a comforting childhood lullaby that you recall hearing as a child but cannot remember the lyrics or the singer. That tune lives in your mind, offering warmth even though the source has been lost to time. In the same way, these nameless gods left a mark on their worshippers, a feeling of protection or awe, even though their names faded away. One strange example can be found. In a desert ruin where the main sanctuary has no obvious icon on the altar, excavators found bowls of grain and broken pottery but no statue or carving to indicate who stood in that sacred space. The walls were painted with swirling lines and simple human figures reaching skyward, but no name or symbol identified the god. We can only guess which gods were honored there. Some think it was a local spirit of water or a guardian of travelers. Others suggest it might have been a healing deity whose fame spread only through oral stories. Regardless, the villagers who came to pray felt a deep connection, as if their prayers reached an unseen presence. Often in history, names were not recorded or spoken to protect a god's power. In some traditions, naming a spirit could draw unwanted attention or weaken its influence. Imagine if you whispered someone's name while they were sleeping, and suddenly they woke unprepared. In relationships, we know how a name holds weight. Hearing a friend's name can bring comfort, but speaking the name of someone we fear might bring anxiety. In the same way, leaving a god without a name could have been a way to keep it mysterious, powerful, and safe from rivals or invaders. The people believed that if they spoke the name aloud, they might risk angering the god or revealing secrets meant only for the faithful. This practice also shows us how language can shape belief. When you describe a feeling of calm without having a specific word for it, you rely on gestures, glances, or simple phrases to share that sense with someone else. In many old languages, words for certain feelings or spirits no longer exist. We lose not just letters but the ideas behind them. A nameless god might have embodied a concept so subtle that words failed to capture it, like the gentle warmth of dawn, the feeling of safety under a familiar roof, or the quiet trust between close friends. Those senses are real, even if our language cannot fully describe them now. In mental health, we sometimes struggle to name our own feelings. We might feel off and not know if it is sadness, anxiety, or something else. Without a clear word, we wander in search of understanding. The practice of worshiping a god without naming it feels similar. The people knew the presence, felt its comfort, but did not, or could not, put a single word to it. They trusted that the god understood them without a name, just as sometimes we trust a close friend to understand us without us saying everything outright. As we think about today's world, artificial intelligence tries to learn from vast amounts of data, names, dates, images, sounds. But AI struggles when it encounters something without a clear label. If you show an AI a painting without a title, it might describe colors and shapes, but it cannot grasp the emotion behind it. It cannot fill in the gap that a nameless god leaves. In the same way, these ruins remind us that not everything meaningful can be encoded into data. Some truths about life, love, and faith remain beyond the reach of perfect classification. They live in the spaces between words, in the quiet moments when we feel something larger than ourselves. Imagine walking through those ruins at dawn. Mist drifting across the stone floor, soft rays of light falling through cracks. You might feel gratitude, hope, or a sense of wonder. You might not know the name of the god who once dwelled there, but the feeling itself guides you. It reminds you that faith can be a breath of air, unseen yet deeply felt. In our daily lives, we might not speak of an all-powerful spirit, but we carry moments of gratitude, trust, and awe. They shape us, heal us, and lead us forward. No name required. Before we explore the next ancient secret, I invite you to share your own experiences with the nameless. Perhaps you felt a sudden calm during a storm, or heard a whisper of comfort in a crowded place. Have you ever trusted something you could not name? Let us know where you're watching from and how you sensed that quiet presence. If this journey into the world of gods without names brings you peace or curiosity, please like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who cherishes the quiet mysteries of our past. There are more secrets waiting, whispers to be heard, and nameless wonders to discover. Let's keep listening. Together. Wade Shadows. Have you ever noticed how your shadow grows longer as the sun sets, stretching behind you like a silent companion? Imagine someone in the distant past measuring that very shadow, placing a scale or marking its length, and believing it revealed more than just your height. Where are you right now as you hear this? Perhaps you're sitting by a window, watching your own shadow shift on the floor as clouds drift by. Let me know in the comments if you've ever tried to trace your shadow on a bright morning, or if you felt strange watching it cling to you even when you weren't looking. That simple act of noticing our shadow connects us to a practice older than most of us realize. In some ancient cultures, people believed a person's shadow was like an invisible reflection of their soul or character. They didn't see it as merely a dark shape under their feet. Instead, they thought it held secrets, fears, hopes, or even illnesses. To weigh a shadow meant more than stepping on a scale. It meant placing a sense of measure on your inner self. Priests or healers would ask someone to stand in a quiet courtyard at dawn or dusk, when shadows are easiest to see, and use simple lines drawn in sand or carvings on stone to mark its length. They might have held a small pouch of sand or pebbles at the base of the person's feet, then moved to the tip of the shadow and declared, "Your soul's burden is light," or "Your heart is heavy with worry." It was not a scientific measurement, but a ritual that asked, "What is unseen in you?" And could that be revealed by the dance of light and dark? Think about a time when you felt weighed down by worry, maybe before an exam or a big decision. You might have stood in front of a mirror, examined your face, or paced the room, looking for clues in your own expression. That tension in your chest feels heavy, even though no one can see it, but your shadow might hint at it. In bright sunlight, you notice your shoulders slump, making your silhouette seem smaller or more hunched. In that moment, you see a truth about yourself expressed without words. The ritual of weighing shadows took that observation and made it sacred. It turned a private feeling into a public act of healing or guidance. Have you ever watched how a shadow moves when you walk beside a friend? Sometimes you match their pace and your shadows merge. Other times, one of you slows and the shadows separate. It's a simple way to see how two people share a path, or how they diverge. In friendships, we often measure closeness by how well we move together. Do we laugh at the same jokes? Do we feel each other's moods? We weigh the weight of silence or the burden of a secret. Sometimes a friend's quiet glance tells us more than words. The idea of weighing shadows asks us to look for those silent signs in each other, to offer support before anyone needs to speak. In ancient belief, a shadow could even carry a sickness. If someone fell ill, a healer might call them outside at twilight to see how long their shadow fell across the wall. A very short or very long shadow suggested something out of balance, either too much pride or too little strength. In a world without X-rays or scans, this simple trick felt like peering inside the body without touching it. It was an invitation to explore the hidden parts of ourselves, our fears of failure, our secret doubts, our unspoken grief. Today, if someone you care about seems off, you might notice the tension in their jaw or the sadness in their eyes. We still look for signs. Beyond words, the ancient practice of weighing shadows reminds us to pay attention to those signs and ask, what more could we learn by simply observing? Language around shadows is rich in hidden meaning. We talk about living in someone's shadow or casting a shadow over someone's life. We speak of a shadow of doubt or a shadow of a chance. In relationships, these phrases shape how we understand our feelings. When you sense a shadow between you and a friend, you might notice a pause in conversation, a missed call, or a shift in tone. Those small moments tell you more than a direct statement. The ritual of weighing shadows played with this idea, using a shadow as a measure of the invisible. In a similar way, we now use words to hint at deeper thoughts, trusting that someone who listens closely will notice the weight behind them. In modern life, mental health often invites us to shine light on our own shadows. Therapists might ask you to keep a journal, writing down thoughts that feel dark or scary. Over time, you see patterns, a fear that returns, an idea that haunts you. By bringing those feelings into view, you learn to weigh them, to notice their size and shape. In the ancient practice, a simple line drawn on the ground served as that journal. It showed the healer where a person stood in their life, what they carried beneath the surface. Today, we replace that line with words on a page, or maybe an app that tracks our mood. But the goal remains. To understand what we feel before it grows too heavy. Let's consider artificial intelligence. AI can analyze a photograph of someone and guess their age, mood, even a rough estimate of their fitness. It can measure the length of a shadow in an image and calculate the time of day. But can an algorithm weigh a shadow and understand what it means for a person's spirit? AI can process data, predict outcomes, and recommend actions. Yet it still struggles to grasp the subtle play of light and dark that speaks to our soul. The ritual of weighing shadows was not about data points, but about connection, an act of care that said, "I see more in you than you know." In a world where AI often tries to measure us by our numbers, the practice reminds us that some truths lie beyond calculation. They dwell in the space between light and dark where compassion and intuition meet. Think back to a rainy day when you looked out the window and noticed your shadow was barely there, washed away by cloud cover. That moment might have felt odd. No clear shape beneath your feet. It reminds us that shadows need light to exist. When we face depression or grief, we might feel like our own shadow has vanished, that the world around us has dulled and we no longer cast a presence. In those times, a friend's question, "How are you, really?" can feel like the sun breaking through clouds. It helps us remember our shape, our size, our worth. The ancient healing act did something similar. By inviting someone to weigh their shadow, healers offered a moment of presence, a chance to feel seen even when light felt dim. Before we move on to the next ancient secret, I invite you to share your experience with shadows. Have you ever noticed how your mood shifts when you see your shadow dance in the sunlight? Or felt a strange comfort in tracing it on a wall? Tell us where you're watching from and how you connect with your own shadow. If this journey into weighed shadows brought calm or insight, please like this video, subscribe for more explorations, and share it with someone who might need a reminder to let light and dark guide them gently. There are more hidden practices waiting to be rediscovered. Rituals that teach us how to listen, how to feel, and how to find balance in the spaces we often overlook. Let's keep learning together, one whispered secret at a time. Eyes closed. Maps. Have you ever tried finding your way in the dark, like walking to the bathroom at night without turning on the lights? You rely on something more than your eyes. Your memory, your sense of touch, the quiet creak of the floor beneath your feet. Now imagine holding a map that has no drawings, no colors, no lines, just textures, maybe bumps or threads, maybe something that presses against your fingertips in a way that seems to say, "Turn left here." Would you be able to trust it? Would you follow a path you couldn't see? Where are you right now? Maybe you're lying in bed, lights off, eyes closed, just listening. Try this with me. Imagine your room without looking at it. Picture the bed, the door, maybe a window. Your body knows more than you think. If you've ever walked home distracted, lost in thought, yet made it safely without remembering each step, you've used your own inner map. If you've ever trusted your hand to find the light switch in a hotel bathroom, or felt for the edge of a desk in a power outage, then you already understand the kind of navigation we're about to explore. Let me know in the comments if you've ever used your body like this, feeling your way instead of seeing it. I'd love to hear where in the world you are and how you found your way in the dark. Long ago, some cultures made maps that you didn't read with your eyes. You touched them. You held them like you would a smooth stone or a folded leaf. One example is a kind of map used by seafarers in the Pacific Ocean. These weren't maps in the way we think of them. They were often small, pieces of wood with curved sticks and tiny shells attached. The sticks represented ocean swells, the way waves moved. The shells stood for islands. But the amazing part? These maps weren't meant to be used during the journey. They were studied beforehand, then set aside. The sailor would hold the knowledge in their body. They would memorize the feel of the currents and winds, the rhythm of the sea under their canoe, and let that guide them. Their map lived not in their eyes, but in their hands, their skin, their breath. And these weren't just for people who couldn't see. These were for people who wanted to see differently. Think of when you're blindfolded in a game, and you suddenly become aware of things you normally ignore. The scent of something sweet, the direction of someone's breath near you, the way the ground slopes under your feet. When we close our eyes, our world doesn't go away. It simply shifts. The idea of eyes-closed maps was not just about blindness. It was about trusting the unseen, valuing what isn't written down, but felt. A kind of faith in your body's quiet wisdom. Maybe you've noticed this during stressful times. Before a big test, before a difficult talk with someone, your senses become sharper. You walk into a room and feel the tension without anyone saying a word. That's a kind of map, too. A map made of energy, silence, space. Some people are better at reading those invisible maps than others. We call them intuitive, but maybe it's just that they've practiced listening with more than their ears, seeing with more than their eyes. The maps we're talking about now are not just tools. They are metaphors for how we move through emotion, for how we know where to go in life even when nothing is clearly marked. In today's world, we are flooded with information, GPS, traffic alerts, satellite images, but sometimes all of that just makes us more lost. Think about it. Have you ever followed a GPS and still felt confused? It tells you to turn, but your instincts whisper, "That doesn't feel right." Sometimes the fastest route isn't the best one. Sometimes the path that's not shown on the map is the one that brings peace. The people who used eyes-closed maps didn't measure distance by miles. They measured it by memory, by feeling. The way the boat tilted or how the wind touched their cheek, that way of moving through the world feels almost impossible now. But maybe it's not. Let's imagine you're in a relationship. It could be with a friend, a parent, a partner. Things are going well, mostly, but something small changes. They stop texting first, or they laugh a little less. No one says anything, but you notice, you feel the shift before words are spoken. That's a kind of invisible navigation, a map that tells you where you are, and maybe where you're heading. But it's hard to explain. You just know. And often, that knowing is more accurate than any message on a screen. The paradox here is that sometimes not seeing everything helps us understand more. Sometimes when we close our eyes, we feel more clearly. Even artificial intelligence, as powerful as it is, works mostly on data it can see or measure. It processes pictures, words, movement, but it doesn't understand that strange feeling you get when something's off in a room. It doesn't recognize the quiet discomfort in someone's silence. It doesn't use a map that only the heart can read. That's what makes these ancient tools so fascinating. They weren't based on calculations, but on trust. Trust in the senses. Trust in patterns that repeat, like the sound of waves or the shift in wind. Trust in the deep inner voice that says, "This is the way." Many of these tools have been forgotten, or worse, dismissed as primitive. But there's a quiet wisdom in the idea that not all journeys need to be mapped out in advance. That sometimes the best directions are the ones we carry inside, even if we don't fully understand them. A dream might tell us where we're going. A strange coincidence might act as a signpost. A sudden feeling might say, "Turn here." And though we might not be able to explain it, we listen, and we follow. So what were these eyes-closed maps really for? For the blind? For the brave? Or for anyone willing to step into mystery, to move without full vision, and still arrive safely? They remind us that the world is not just something to be seen, it's something to be felt. It's in the way the floor creaks, the way wind wraps around corners, the way someone's voice wavers when they speak. These are the signs we follow when nothing is clear. If this quiet idea speaks to you, this way of knowing without always seeing, take a moment to like this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever followed a path that wasn't marked? Trusted a feeling instead of a fact? And if you'd like to keep exploring ideas like this, I invite you to subscribe. There are more mysteries waiting, and not all of them can be found with your eyes open. Stone that floats. Imagine standing in the middle of a thick forest, far from any town, with no roads around you, only trees, hills, and silence. Now imagine looking up and seeing a massive stone slab, taller than a house, balanced perfectly, on a hilltop. It's so big that even 10 people together couldn't move it. But there it is, resting quietly, as if it was placed there by invisible hands. No cranes, no wheels, no signs of how it arrived. Just stone, heavy, silent, and somehow it's floating in the middle of nowhere. Have you ever seen something that made no sense but still felt real? Maybe a shadow that moved when nothing else did. Or a childhood memory that no one else remembers but you. If you've ever stood in front of something so old and strange that it made you feel small, like time had stopped for a second, then you already understand the mystery we're about to explore. Let me know in the comments if there's a place like that near you. A stone, a structure, a space that just feels out of place. Across the world, people have found megaliths, massive stones used in ancient buildings or standing alone. Some weigh hundreds of tons. What's strange is not just their size, but where they're found. Deep in jungles, at the top of remote hills, on islands with no trees for boats or tools. These places have no visible roads, no signs of ancient machinery, and no broken pieces of old transport left behind. It's like the stones simply appeared there, as if they floated. Now, of course, stone can't float, at least not the way wood does, but that's what makes the mystery so deep. These stones should be impossible to move without modern machines, yet somehow ancient people moved them. Or maybe they didn't move them at all. Maybe something else did. That's the question that has puzzled thinkers, scientists, and dreamers for years. The idea that these huge stones were transported without any tools we know of opens up a space between what we believe and what we don't yet understand. Think about exams. Sometimes you're given a question with no clear answer. You've studied everything, but the problem just sits there, silent, heavy, too big to move. So what do? You guess. You imagine. You reach into the unknown and try to shape something useful. That's what ancient people might have done with these stones. Maybe they used sound, or water, or vibration. Maybe they knew something we've forgotten. A trick, a pattern, a force that hasn't been named yet. Something just beyond the edge of our current understanding. There's a story about a man in the 1900s who built a structure using giant stones. Alone. No one saw him work. He said he had discovered the secret of how the ancient builders did it. People would pass by and hear strange sounds at night. When the sun rose, another stone would be in place, perfectly balanced, no tracks, no struggle, just stone that seemed to move like wind. That story might be myth, or maybe, like many myths, it hides a small truth, that the world is full of forces we can't see, but that doesn't mean they're not real. In relationships, too, we often carry invisible weight, arguments that were never finished, feelings never said, memories that won't go away. These are our own stones, heavy things that we carry, sometimes for years, and often there's no clear path for how to move them, no road in, no road out. We just hold them, hoping one day they'll shift, that someone will understand, that we'll find a way to float, despite the weight. These ancient stones feel like symbols of that, quiet reminders that even the heaviest things can move, even if we don't know how. Language struggles with this mystery too. We use words to explain, to define, to make sense of the world. But sometimes words are too small. They bounce off the mystery like water off stone. People try to give names to these ancient sites. Some say they were tombs, others say observatories. Some believe they were places of power. But the truth is, we don't know. We guess. We give the stones names and stories, but they remain silent, watching, waiting, unchanged by our explanations. In modern times, we like answers. We want to know how everything works. That's part of what makes artificial intelligence so powerful. It processes things fast. It connects dots. But AI works best when the pieces are visible, when the data is clear, when the road exists. These floating stones don't fit into that system. They challenge the idea that everything must make sense. They remind us that mystery still exists, that not all answers are fast. Some are slow, some are silent, some don't come at all, and yet here they are. Real stones, real places. If you ever visit one of these sites, you'll notice something strange. People speak quietly around them. Children stop running. Even animals seem to pause. It's as if the space itself asks for silence, as if the stone remembers something that we've forgotten. And maybe that's the real gift they offer. Not an answer, but a pause, a breath, a reminder that some things can't be rushed or explained. If this feeling speaks to you, this calm, quiet sense of wonder, please take a moment to like this video. Share your thoughts. Have you ever stood in a place that didn't make sense, but felt deeply real? Subscribe if you'd like to keep exploring more mysteries like this. Together, we can walk the old paths, even if there's no road in and no road out. Buried bells. What would you do if you dug into the earth expecting nothing but soil and found a perfectly shaped metal bell? Not rusted, not broken, but smooth, silent, and solid. Then someone tells you, it's older than metal itself, older than the tools that should have made it. Imagine the chill, the quiet confusion, the feeling that time had played a trick. Have you ever found something that made no sense? Maybe an old photo in your attic you don't remember taking. Or a number saved in your phone you're sure you never dialed. These small moments can feel like echoes from another time, like messages buried under everyday life. If you've ever come across something that made you stop and wonder, share it with us in the comments. You never know what story might connect with someone else around the world. Now back to the bell. Stories like this have been whispered across generations. In deep mines, during ordinary digging, even in old riverbeds, people have claimed to find metallic instruments sealed in layers of earth that are, according to science, far older than any known metalwork. Bells, rings, hollow tubes, objects that don't belong where they're found. Buried deep, silent, but speaking loudly to those who listen. Some of these discoveries were dismissed. Others were quietly stored away. A few were studied, but no clear answers came. What makes this strange is not just the presence of metal, but its form. These weren't just lumps or natural formations. They were shaped, designed. Some even made sounds when struck, like instruments or tools or something in between. We all know the sound of a bell. It cuts through space like light through fog. Soft but clear. It's used in schools to start and end classes, in temples to mark sacred space, even in simple home wind chimes that sing when the wind passes. A bell doesn't just make noise. It signals change. It marks presence. It says, I am here. So what does it mean when that same shape, something meant to be seen and heard, is buried where no one should have made it? Did someone drop it long ago? Or was it hidden, placed deep inside the earth on purpose? Was it made by hands like ours? Or by something else entirely? Think about preparing for an exam. You go through every book, every note, you feel ready. But then comes a question that's not in anything you studied. It doesn't fit the pattern. It doesn't make sense. That question is like a buried bell, a quiet challenge to what you think you know. You can ignore it, or you can let it ring in your mind and pull you into something deeper. Some believe these bells might be leftovers from a forgotten time, a time before our recorded history began, a time wiped clean by nature, or silence, or both. Others believe they're mistakes, modern objects that somehow ended up where they shouldn't. That's the safe answer, the quiet answer. But the mystery remains. Our minds like patterns. We feel better when things follow rules. Language helps us with that. We name things, we describe them. But what happens when something arrives that language cannot hold? A bell that cannot be explained. A story with no beginning, a shape with no past. These moments show us the limits of what we know, and maybe that's the point. In relationships too, we face buried things. Words we never said, feelings we kept hidden, memories we pushed down, hoping time would cover them up. But just like the bells, they don't always stay buried. They rise again, maybe in a quiet moment, or a familiar place, or a dream that keeps coming back. And when they do, they ring. Softly. Reminding us that some parts of us cannot be forgotten. They want to be seen, heard, felt. Artificial intelligence is trained on data, on patterns, on language, but even machines reach limits. What happens when they're asked a question that breaks the mold, when they meet a riddle with no clear answer? That moment, that edge of understanding, is what makes us human. We sit with the unknown. We feel it, and sometimes instead of answering, we simply listen. These buried bells ask us not to solve, but to feel, to pause, to wonder. Maybe they are a reminder that history isn't a straight line, that the past is not a closed door, that beneath our feet, under layers of soil and silence, other stories still sleep, waiting to be uncovered. If you've ever found something strange, something you couldn't explain, tell us. Let it ring through this shared space. And if you enjoy these gentle explorations where mystery meets memory, consider liking this video. It helps us reach others who also find peace in wonder. Subscribe if you'd like more stories like this. Together, let's listen for the bells, even if they're buried deep, even if no one knows who made them. Because sometimes, the quietest sounds are the ones that stay the longest. Forever fires. Imagine a flame that never dies. A fire that burns for hundreds, even thousands of years, without anyone adding wood or fuel. A flame that seems to breathe on its own, glowing quietly through storms, droughts, and centuries of change. It sounds like a story from a dream or an old legend. But what if it's real? What if somewhere in the world, such fires have been kept alive, glowing like a silent secret from a time we don't fully understand? Have you ever felt the warmth of a small fire on a cold night? Maybe at a camp or by a fireplace at home. That simple comfort, the crackle, the light, the heat, can make a place feel safe. It feels like the world is watching over you, even when everything else feels uncertain. Now, imagine a fire that never needs tending. It doesn't run out of wood. It doesn't weaken or fade. It just burns quietly and steadily, as if it has found its own endless breath. It feels both familiar and strange. Have you ever seen or heard of anything like this? Share your story or your location with us below. We'd love to hear what mysterious things you've encountered. These forever fires are often called eternal flames or sacred fires. Many ancient cultures kept them burning in temples, shrines, or special places. Sometimes the flame symbolized life itself, or the presence of a god. Other times it was a sign of hope, a light in the darkness that reminded people they were never alone. Some flames were kept going for hundreds of years, passed down from generation to generation. The care taken to keep the fire alive was a sacred duty. But how did they do it? How could they keep the flame burning for so long without adding new fuel? We know that fire needs three things to keep burning: fuel, oxygen, and heat. Take away any one of those and the fire goes out. So, when we hear about fires burning without fuel, it sounds impossible. And yet, these stories persist. Some ancient texts describe fires kept burning on stones that seem to hold their own heat. Others speak of natural gases rising from the ground, feeding a flame that never died. Modern scientists have studied some of these eternal flames and found explanations like gas leaks or natural chemical reactions, but not every forever fire fits these patterns. Some have disappeared mysteriously. Others were hidden or protected in ways that make their secret hard to discover. Think about preparing for a big exam. You study hard, review all the notes, and still, you feel there's a part you don't fully understand. That feeling of mystery, of something just beyond reach, is like the forever fires. We try to explain them with what we know, but some part stays hidden, glowing quietly at the edge of our understanding. It invites us to look closer, to wonder more. In our daily lives, we carry similar mysteries. Relationships sometimes hold, feelings that seem to last forever. Love, pain, hope, that continue burning quietly inside us even when we think we have moved on. These emotions don't need fresh fuel. They keep burning on their own, like a sacred fire inside our hearts. Sometimes we want to put them out. Sometimes we protect them carefully, knowing they are part of who we are. It's a delicate balance. Like the eternal flames, these feelings are both fragile and strong. On a bigger scale, the idea of a forever fire touches on deep beliefs about life, energy, and time. Many religions speak of an eternal spirit or soul that never dies. The flame becomes a symbol of something that outlasts the physical world. It's a language that tries to hold the unholdable, a way to speak about life beyond life, energy beyond energy. When we talk about eternal fires, we are really talking about something that connects us all: hope, endurance, the mystery of existence. Even in technology, we find echoes of the forever fire. Think about artificial intelligence or computers. They run on energy, yes, but the ideas behind them keep growing and changing. Once created, they don't simply vanish. They evolve, learning and adapting, almost like a flame that spreads quietly in the dark. Sometimes AI surprises us with answers we didn't expect. It seems to have a kind of life, a kind of flame of its own. This sparks questions about where the line between machine and life really lies. Our language tries to capture these mysteries with words like eternal, infinite, or forever. But words are only shadows of meaning. The true experience of something burning without end is beyond words. It's felt. It's lived. It's a gentle light in the quiet dark, a reminder that even when things change, some parts remain. The forever. Fires remind us to be patient with mystery. Not everything needs to be solved right away. Some questions are invitations to sit with the unknown, to listen, to breathe, to let the fire burn in our minds, warming us gently as we rest. Maybe that's why stories about eternal flames still hold power today. They remind us that some parts of life are sacred and eternal, not because we understand them, but because we feel them. If you've ever witnessed a fire that felt special, or eternal in its own way, please share your experience in the comments. This space is for all of us who find peace in mystery, who listen quietly for the glow beneath the surface. If this story brought a little warmth to your day, consider liking this video. It helps us connect with more people who love gentle wonders. And if you want to explore more stories like this, subscribe to join our community of curious hearts. The forever fires burn quietly. They don't shout or demand attention. They simply glow, softly and steadily, like a small light guiding us through the dark, reminding us that mystery and hope can live together, and that sometimes the most lasting flame is the one we carry inside ourselves. Sky temples underwater. Imagine looking out at the ocean, calm and endless, and then learning that beneath those waves lie entire temples, structures so precise and familiar, they seem to mirror temples built far above the sea. It feels like a dream or a story from an ancient myth. How could temples, designed to stand on land, appear perfectly preserved underwater? What stories could these sunken temples tell us about the past, about people, and about time itself? It's a mystery that quietly invites us to wonder and imagine. Have you ever stood by a shore, watching the water ripple under the sun? Maybe you have dived into the sea or swum near a coral reef. There is something calming, yet mysterious about the ocean's depth, a vast world hidden just beneath the surface. Now imagine that world hiding not just fish and plants, but ancient temples. Temples that look like they belong to a land long lost or hidden beneath the waves. Have you ever encountered or heard about underwater places that made you pause and question what you thought was possible? Share your story with us. What mysteries does your local water hold? These underwater temples have been found in different parts of the world. What makes them so strange is how much they resemble temples on dry land. The shapes, the carvings, the carefully planned spaces. It's as if the sea took a snapshot of a place and stored it underwater. Some say these structures are natural, formations shaped by time and tide. Others believe they were built by ancient people, now lost to history, before the waters rose and swallowed their homes. The paradox is that these temples seem too perfect to be random, but no one knows for sure who built them or how they came to rest beneath the waves. Think about when you prepare for an exam and you suddenly feel overwhelmed by all the information you need to understand. Sometimes pieces don't fit together at first, but with time, the bigger picture starts to appear. This is much like the story of these underwater temples. We see the details but struggle to understand the full story. The water blurs the edges and the past feels distant and mysterious. Yet each discovery pushes us to look deeper, to connect the pieces of history, culture, and nature. On a smaller scale, this mystery reminds us of the complex layers in our own minds, like memories or feelings that seem buried deep, sometimes hidden by time or experience, waiting to be uncovered. Relationships, too, can have hidden depths, things said and unsaid, feelings that rise and fall like the tide. Just as these temples are found underwater, parts of ourselves remain submerged, quietly shaping who we are even when they are out of sight. When we think about these sunken temples, they also invite us to consider larger ideas about change and time. The Earth's surface is never still. Coastlines shift, seas rise and fall. What was once dry land can disappear beneath water, and places thought lost can be found again. This touches on ideas of impermanence and renewal that many cultures and philosophies explore. Like the tides, life moves in cycles of loss and discovery, hiding and revealing, silence and sound. In language, the story of sky temples underwater is a reminder of how words try to hold the past and present together. We speak of sinking, rising, hidden, and found, all to describe a reality that is always shifting. It shows us how our tools for understanding, like maps or history books, have limits. There is always more beneath the surface, more meaning, more mystery. Even technology plays with these ideas. Think about virtual reality or digital maps that can show us underwater worlds or lost cities with just a click. These tools give us new ways to explore and imagine, but they also remind us that our knowledge is shaped by what we can see and measure. Like the temples underwater, some things are beyond our full grasp, inviting patience and wonder. The gentle ebb and flow of the ocean is like the rhythm of discovery itself. Sometimes we find clear answers, like a temple standing tall in sunlight. Other times the water clouds our vision, leaving only hints and questions. And sometimes that is enough. A quiet invitation to be present with the unknown, to let curiosity guide us softly forward. If you've ever encountered a place that felt mysterious, or seen something that challenged your ideas of reality, please share it in the comments. Your stories help build a community of quiet wonder and respectful curiosity. If this video brought you a moment of calm or sparked your imagination, please like it. And if you want to join us in exploring more gentle mysteries, subscribe for more stories that move slowly and thoughtfully, just like the tides. The temples under the sea remind us that some things are meant to be discovered slowly. They teach us to listen to the quiet and respect the mystery, because sometimes the most beautiful truths are those that wait patiently beneath the surface, glowing softly like an ancient flame in the deep blue. Mouthless statues. Imagine walking through an ancient site and seeing hundreds of statues. They stand silently, but something feels strange. None of them have mouths. No lips, no openings, no way to speak or shout, just still faces frozen in time. It's a scene that feels both calm and eerie, as if these figures are holding a secret too quiet to share. Why would anyone create statues without mouths? Was it a warning, a lost message, or maybe a symbol of something we don't fully understand? This strange silence invites us to pause, to wonder, and to listen with our minds instead of ears. Have you ever felt moments when words just won't come out? Times when you want to speak, but something holds you back? Maybe during a difficult conversation, a stressful exam, or when facing strong emotions like fear or sadness. These statues remind us of those quiet moments in our own lives, times when silence speaks louder than words. Have you ever experienced this silence in your own life? Maybe where you live or during a special event? Share your story with us. It helps build a community that understands the power of silence. These mouthless statues have puzzled many. Some think they were meant to show respect or fear for silence itself. In some cultures, silence can be sacred. It can mean listening, deeply respecting the unknown or protecting a powerful secret. Other ideas suggest these statues represent voices that were taken away, maybe as a warning against speaking or as a sign of lost beliefs where words no longer hold power. The absence of a mouth becomes a symbol. It is both presence and absence, speech and silence. Imagine a time when you prepared for an exam or a presentation. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the material, but finding the right words. You know what you want to say, but the words don't come out as easily as you expect. This struggle with communication is part of what these statues seem to capture. They remind us that communication isn't always about speaking. It's about being heard, understood, and sometimes simply existing in quiet togetherness. In relationships, silence can mean many things. It can be comfort, like sitting side by side without needing to talk. Or it can be tension, where something unsaid hangs heavy in the air. These statues may symbolize those delicate moments when words fail us, or when silence is the only answer. They invite us to feel the spaces between words, to understand that meaning can exist beyond speech. On a broader level, these statues connect with ideas about belief and language. Language shapes how we understand the world and each other. When language breaks down, when words are lost or forbidden, what remains? Silence, symbols, actions? The mouthless statues stand as a reminder that meaning is not only spoken, it lives in the quiet, in shared looks, in the spaces between sounds. The paradox of these statues can also make us think about mental health. Sometimes people feel voiceless, not because they have no words, but because they fear judgment, misunderstanding, or pain. The statues become a mirror for those silent struggles. They tell us that even when words are missing, presence matters. Even in silence, we are still here, still seen, still part of the world. In our modern world, with so much noise and chatter, the mouthless statues invite a different kind of attention. They ask us to slow down, to listen not only to sounds, but to the quiet parts of our minds and hearts. They remind us that silence is not empty. It is full of thoughts, feelings, and truths that don't need to be spoken out loud to be real. Even technology can't capture everything about silence. Voice assistants and AI respond to sounds and commands, but the deep meaning of quiet presence, the comfort of shared silence, often escapes their reach. The statues remind us that some experiences are beyond words or digital signals. They live in our shared human stillness. If you feel drawn to these silent figures, if their quiet mystery touches something in you, please share your thoughts in the comments. Have you experienced moments when silence said more than words? Your stories help us connect in this calm space. If this reflection brought you peace or curiosity, please like the video. And if you want to explore more gentle mysteries together, Subscribe to join our quiet community. The mouthless statues are a powerful reminder that sometimes silence is the greatest message. In their quiet stillness, they hold space for the unsaid, the unknown, and the deeply human experience of being present without words. They teach us that listening is as important as speaking, and that in silence there can be understanding, healing, and connection. Children's stone games. Imagine a playground, a place full of laughter and joy where children run and play. Now imagine that this playground is not just any playground. It is built right into an ancient sacred site, surrounded by stones worn, smooth with time. What if these games were more than just fun? What if they were part of hidden rituals, carrying secrets passed down from long ago? This surprising thought invites us to look deeper at what seems simple and familiar, and wonder what stories those stones could tell. Have you ever played a game in a special place? A park, a schoolyard, or maybe somewhere that felt a little magical? Did you ever stop and wonder if that place held more than just memories of play? Maybe near your home or town, there's a place like this where children gather, but the land has its own quiet history. If you know a spot like that, or a story about games and places, share it with us. It's through sharing that we build a connection and learn from each other's experiences. The idea of children's games on sacred sites creates a beautiful paradox. On one hand, we think of sacred places as quiet, serious, and full of respect. On the other, children's games are loud, wild, and full of energy. How can these two be together? What if the games were not separate from the sacred, but part of it? What if play itself was a way to honor something greater, to connect with history, community, and even the spiritual world? Think about your own life. Sometimes when we are under pressure, like before an exam or during a difficult day, we need a break. Play helps us relax and find balance. It is a simple way to connect with others and feel safe. Maybe, long ago, children playing on sacred stones were part of this same idea, helping to bring balance between the serious and the joyful. They remind us that life is a mix of both, and that joy can be sacred too. These playgrounds built into sacred sites often have carefully carved stones, paths, and shapes that don't look random. Some suggest these designs were part of rituals hidden beneath the surface of play. Maybe children unknowingly practiced traditions or learned lessons important to their community's beliefs. The games might have been a way to teach respect for nature, ancestors, or the universe in a way that was natural and joyful. Imagine how different life would feel if play and ritual were connected so closely. In our modern world, we often separate work, belief, and play, but these ancient sites ask us to see these parts of life as one whole. Play is not just fun, it is a way to learn, connect, and grow. Ritual is not just for adults, it can be part of everyday life, shared in simple moments. This idea bridges the old and the new, showing us that the boundaries we see might be more flexible than we think. In relationships, play is also important. When we feel stressed or disconnected, a game or a shared laugh can heal wounds that words cannot reach. These stone games remind us that connection often happens in the simplest ways. Sometimes silence or stillness is not enough. We need movement, action, and shared joy. The paradox of these playgrounds is that they invite us to find sacredness in the everyday, in laughter, and in the movement of our bodies. Looking deeper, these sites touch on belief and language. What if some lessons and stories cannot be told in words? What if they live in actions, games, and rituals instead? For communities in the past, language may have been limited, or some knowledge was too precious to say aloud. Play could have been a secret language, passed from child to child, generation to generation. This silent language speaks volumes about culture, trust, and continuity. Mental health today reminds us how important play is at all ages. When we are overwhelmed, play can release stress and remind us of simple joys. These ancient games on sacred stones show us that humans have long known this truth. Play is not just for children. It is a vital part of being human. It helps us stay connected to ourselves, to each other, and to the world around us. Even technology, with all its power, cannot replace the deep connection that comes from shared play. Virtual games may be fun, but they often miss the physical, emotional, and spiritual connection that comes from being in a real place, moving our bodies, and sharing space with others. These stone playgrounds call us back to that reality, a reality where touch, space, and community are deeply felt. If you feel moved by this idea, or if you know a special place where play and history meet, please tell us in the comments. Your stories help build a gentle community that understands how simple moments can hold deep meaning. If this reflection brought calm or curiosity, please like the video. And if you want to explore more mysteries that blend the everyday with the ancient, subscribe and join us on this quiet journey. These children's stone games remind us that sacredness is not only found in silence or ritual, but also in joy, movement, and shared laughter. They invite us to see the world as a place where play and belief come together, where the past and present meet in the simplest of actions. In that space, we find connection, healing, and a gentle reminder that life is full of wonder, waiting to be discovered, even in a game. Reverse clocks. What if time didn't always move forward? Imagine standing before a sundial that tells the hours backward, its shadow slowly creeping in the opposite direction of the sun. It feels strange, almost like time is running in reverse, or maybe following a rhythm different from our own. Have you ever noticed moments when time seems to slow down, or even go backward in your mind? This simple but mysterious idea asks us to rethink how we see time, not just as a straight line, but as something more fluid and mysterious. If you have ever seen a sundial or a clock that behaves in an unusual way, maybe somewhere in your town or on a trip, I'd love to hear about it. Sharing where and how you experience this can help us all feel more connected. After all, time touches everyone's life, no matter where we live or what we do. Your story matters here, and it might add a new layer to this mystery. Most of us are used to thinking about time as always moving forward. We watch the clock, plan our day, and expect events to follow one after the other, like beads on a string. But these reverse sundials challenge that simple idea. Why would someone design a clock that moves backward? Is it just a trick, or could it be a symbol of something deeper? Maybe it reflects a way of seeing time that feels closer to nature, memory, or even dreams. Think about your own life. Sometimes, when you think back to a happy moment, it feels like you're traveling backward in time. Or maybe when you're anxious, time seems to drag, almost going in slow reverse. This experience is something we all share. The paradox of the reverse clock is that it reflects something real. Our inner sense of time is not always the steady, forward march we imagine. It bends and twists with how we feel, what we remember, and what we hope for. Everyday examples help us understand this better. Think of a rainy day that feels longer than a sunny one, or a difficult exam that makes minutes stretch endlessly. Time in those moments seems to slow or shift. The reverse clock reminds us that time is not only measured by numbers, but also by feelings and perception. This simple idea helps bridge the gap between the clock on the wall and the clock inside our minds. These backward-moving sundials also invite us to think about bigger themes. What if time is not just a line, but a circle or a spiral? Many ancient cultures saw time differently from our modern clocks. Some believe that events repeat, or that the past and future are connected in ways we don't fully understand. The reverse clock might be a small clue to these ancient ideas, preserved in stone and shadow. This paradox also touches belief and language. How do we talk about time when our experience doesn't fit the words we have? When we say past and future, do these words limit us? Could there be other ways to describe time, more like the way the reverse clock shows it, moving back and forth, never just straight ahead? These questions open a space where science meets poetry and logic meets mystery. Mental health is another place where this paradox is important. When people face trauma or loss, their sense of time can change dramatically. Moments from the past, can feel very close, or the future might seem hard to imagine. The reverse clock can be a gentle reminder that time's flow is not always the same for everyone. Understanding this can bring more kindness and patience to how we relate to ourselves and others. Even in the world of technology and artificial intelligence, this idea of non-linear time is growing. Some AI models and computer programs learn and process information in ways that do not follow strict forward steps. They loop back, reconsider, and adapt. In this way, the reverse clock is not just an ancient curiosity, but also a symbol of how the future might work. More flexible, more reflective, and less fixed. If you find this reflection calming or curious, please like the video. If you have seen or experienced something like a reverse clock, or if you want to explore more mysteries about time and life, please share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice adds depth to this quiet conversation. And if you want to keep learning about the strange and beautiful paradoxes that shape our world, please subscribe and join us on this peaceful journey. The reverse clocks remind us that time is not just a rule to follow, but a feeling to experience. They invite us to slow down, to notice the moments when time bends, and to find beauty in the unexpected flow of life. In this gentle reversal, we find a deeper connection to ourselves, to each other, and to the mystery that surrounds us all. Blindfolded rulers. Imagine looking at a statue of a king, proud and powerful, yet his eyes are covered by a cloth or blindfold. At first it seems strange. How can a leader who must see everything be blindfolded? Were these rulers really blind? Or was there something else behind those covered eyes? This image stirs a quiet mystery, one that invites us to wonder about the meaning beneath power and vision. Have you ever felt like you couldn't or didn't want to see something important? Maybe in your own life. Sometimes closing your eyes feels like protection from temptation, fear, or difficult truths. If you have experienced moments like this, or if you've seen art or statues like these, please share your story. It helps us all feel connected to this puzzle from the past. Most of us think leaders should have clear sight, both literally and figuratively. We imagine kings and queens watching over their kingdoms with sharp eyes, making decisions with wisdom and care. But these blindfolded rulers show us something different. They challenge us to think about what it means to see. Is seeing always about the eyes, or could it be about what we choose to look at or avoid? Sometimes, closing our eyes is not about blindness but about strength. It might be a way to avoid being tempted by things that distract or mislead. Think about everyday moments when you might close your eyes on purpose. Perhaps during a difficult choice, you close your eyes to focus better. Or maybe you cover your eyes to stop yourself from looking at something painful. This simple act helps us understand the paradox of the blindfolded ruler. The blindfold may not mean weakness, but a different kind of power, choosing what to see and what to leave unseen. This idea connects to bigger themes about control and temptation. Leaders face many challenges, not just from enemies, but from their own desires and fears. The blindfold might symbolize a vow to resist temptation, to rule with justice rather than personal gain. It suggests a belief that sometimes, to lead well, you must not look at everything, but only what is necessary. This paradox challenges the usual idea that power comes from perfect knowledge. Maybe true power sometimes comes from restraint, from knowing when to look away. We can also see this paradox in how we use language and belief. The phrase, blind justice, comes to mind. Justice that is fair because it does not favor anyone. Could these blindfolded rulers represent a kind of fairness or a purity in leadership? Or could they be a warning, reminding us that leaders who do not see clearly might be dangerous? The blindfold makes us question how we trust those in power and what we expect from them. This theme reaches into mental health, too. Sometimes people protect themselves by avoiding painful realities. Closing one's eyes or turning away can be a way to cope with stress, sadness, or fear. The blindfolded rulers might reflect this human need to protect the mind and heart from too much harm. It reminds us that sometimes not seeing everything is a form of survival. Even in the world of artificial intelligence and technology, this idea of selective vision is important. AI systems learn what to focus on and what to ignore. They are designed to blindfold themselves from unnecessary data to work better. The blindfolded rulers symbolize this balance between seeing and not seeing, between knowing and letting go. This teaches us that sometimes wisdom is not about gathering all information, but about choosing what matters most. If this quiet mystery of the blindfolded ruler speaks to you, please like this video. If you know of other stories or images like these, or if you want to explore more thoughtful mysteries with us, please leave a comment. Your thoughts help build a gentle community of curious minds, and if you enjoy this kind of calm, deep reflection, please subscribe to join us on this peaceful journey of discovery. The image of the blindfolded king invites us to slow down and think about what it means to truly see. It asks us to reflect on our own moments of blindness and vision, and to find strength in both. In this paradox, we find a quiet wisdom. Sometimes the greatest power lies not in what we see, but in what we choose not to see. Rain inside caves. Imagine walking deep inside a cave where the air is dry and still, yet you notice small drops of water falling gently from the ceiling. What's more curious is that these drops seem to fall only on the ancient paintings, the ones made thousands of years ago. Outside the cave, the weather is dry, with no rain for days. Yet here inside, the art appears to be dripping with moisture, as if the cave itself is weeping for those forgotten stories. This strange and beautiful image feels both familiar and mysterious. Have you ever experienced a place where the weather or atmosphere surprised you in a similar way? Maybe you've been somewhere quiet, where nature seemed to act in secret, or where an old story felt alive around you. If so, please share your experience or the place you visited. It helps us connect, sharing wonder and mystery across the world. These cave paintings are more than just pictures on stone. They are messages from the past, reminders of human creativity and the urge to communicate. But why would moisture gather only on these paintings? It's as if the cave is responding only to those parts of itself that humans touched long ago. Think about how sometimes, in our own lives, memories or feelings seem to come alive in certain places or at certain times. Like hearing a song that brings back a flood of emotions, or visiting a childhood home that smells the same after years away. The cave's moisture feels like nature's way of highlighting what matters, making those paintings special even now. This paradox touches something deeper in us. We all know that water is a symbol of life, renewal, and change. It flows, nourishes, and cleanses. Yet inside this dry cave, water appears only on the ancient drawings, frozen in time, but still alive in a way. It asks us to think about the relationship between nature and human creation, between the earth and memory. Why would water choose these old paintings? Could it be a natural secret, or something beyond what science can explain? This makes us wonder about the invisible forces that connect us to the past, and how the earth itself might remember what we forget. Think about everyday moments where small details seem to hold great meaning, like a rainy day reminding you of someone far away, or a scent that brings back a forgotten place. These simple moments connect us to a larger mystery, how the world around us carries stories beyond words. The cave paintings with their gentle dripping moisture are like that. They invite us to pause, listen, and wonder. This mystery also touches belief and language. Ancient people may have seen water as a gift or a message. They might have created these paintings as sacred acts, calling upon the spirits or forces that govern nature. The water's presence now could be a kind of silent answer, a sign that those old beliefs are not lost, but still alive beneath the surface. It challenges our modern way of thinking that everything must be explained by science alone. Sometimes mystery itself is a truth we need to accept to keep wonder and respect alive. In terms of mental health, this story reminds us of how memories and feelings sometimes appear when we least expect them. Just like the unexpected moisture, in the cave, emotions can surface in surprising ways, reminding us of what matters most. It encourages gentle attention and care for the hidden parts of ourselves, those quiet places where old stories and feelings still live. Even in the world of artificial intelligence, this idea of hidden layers is important. AI systems often search for patterns beneath the surface, trying to find meaning in what seems random or silent. The cave's mysterious rain on the paintings is like a puzzle for AI. How to understand the unseen connections between nature, history, and meaning. It shows us that even with technology, some mysteries remain beyond full explanation, inviting humility and curiosity. If this quiet mystery of rain inside caves moves you, please like this video. Share your own experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Perhaps you know of places where nature feels alive in secret ways. And if you enjoy exploring these gentle mysteries with calm and thoughtfulness, please subscribe. Together we can keep discovering the quiet wonders of the world, one soft story at a time. This strange dance of water and stone invites us to slow down and feel the invisible threads that connect past and present, nature and humanity. It reminds us that mystery is a gift, a gentle invitation to see the world with fresh eyes and to treasure the quiet moments that speak without words. Mouth of silence. Imagine standing alone in a vast desert, surrounded by endless sand dunes and a clear blue sky. You speak, but no sound returns to your ears. You clap your hands, but the sharp crack you expect vanishes, as if swallowed by the air itself. This place is called the Mouth of Silence, a spot where sound disappears completely. It feels strange and deeply peaceful. Have you ever been somewhere so quiet that even your own breath sounds loud? Or maybe you found a moment of silence in a busy world that felt like a secret refuge. If so, I'd love to hear where and when. Sharing these experiences helps us build a community around wonder and calm. This silence in the desert is not just the absence of noise. It is a special kind of quiet that seems to erase sound altogether. People wonder if it is nature's own secret, or if it was created by ancient hands, engineered in a way we don't understand. Picture walking into a busy room and suddenly hearing only silence. It is the opposite of what we expect, like when a phone suddenly goes dead, or when a power outage turns a city into darkness. Silence can feel strange, even a little unsettling, yet it can also be deeply soothing. The Mouth of Silence invites us to slow down, listen, and simply be. Think about everyday moments when silence speaks louder than words. After a tough conversation, when neither side knows what to say next, silence fills the space. On a quiet morning, the silence before dawn feels full of promise. Or during an exam, the quiet in the room helps you focus, even as your mind races. Silence is not empty. It carries meaning, emotion, and sometimes peace. The desert silence is like that, but amplified, as if the earth itself is holding its breath. This paradox touches bigger ideas about how we experience the world. Sound connects us. It carries language, music, laughter, and warnings. But silence also connects us in a different way. It can remind us of limits, of spaces where words and noise cannot reach. The Mouth of Silence may be a natural wonder or a message from those who came before. It asks us to consider what we lose when we fill every moment with sound, and what we gain when we allow silence to enter. In belief and culture, silence often holds special power. Many spiritual traditions use silence for meditation, healing, or connection to something greater. Silence can be a place of rest for the mind and soul, yet silence can also bring fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of loneliness. The Mouth of Silence shows us both sides, the quiet as comfort and the quiet as mystery. It invites us to hold silence gently, neither fearing it nor forcing it away. From a mental health perspective, silence can be a healer or a challenge. Moments of quiet allow reflection and calm. But too much silence, especially in loneliness, can be hard to bear. This desert silence teaches balance. It shows that silence can be full, rich, and alive, not just empty space. It asks us to listen not only with our ears, but with our hearts, to the spaces between sounds. Even in the realm of artificial intelligence, the idea of silence is meaningful. AI listens for patterns, noise, and data to learn and respond. But what about silence? What happens in the quiet moments when no input is given? The mouth of silence reminds us that sometimes the most important things are found not in words or sounds, but in the pauses. These silent moments shape meaning, understanding, and connection. If this story of the mouth of silence draws you in, please like this video. Share your own quiet experiences or places in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring these calm, mysterious stories with gentle thoughtfulness, please subscribe. Together we can find peace in the silent places and wonder in the quiet corners of the world. This silent desert spot is a gift, a reminder that silence is not just the absence of sound, but a space full of possibility, mystery, and calm. It encourages us to slow down, breathe deeply, and listen to the quiet whispers of the earth and our own hearts.